Welcome, everyone, to episode
Good.
68 of the Looks Like a Movie podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm here with Doug, Owen, and our guest today, our good friend Nalbis, who is here to talk with us about Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. But first, as always, we can talk about what we watched this week. And if you want to get us started, Nalbis, you can, since you're our guest. And this
Ooh.
has been a long anticipated pod for us.
Yeah. So for the past week I've watched a couple of sick ones, some really big heavy hitters. So obviously I was rewatching all the Mad Max films, but I did revisit Mad Max 2 with the commentary track with George Miller, which was a really interesting thing to dive into. He's I don't know how much you guys have heard George Miller talk, but he's such like a sweetheart. Like he's really nice. Just seems like a really chill guy. And then all these movies are fucking like insane. But it's really nice to listen to him. He was with his DOP, and they talked a lot about the sort of development of the film. They shot it in Broken Hill, which at the time there was really cold, so it's like kind of interesting that like the film is like in this desolate wasteland, but it's like really cold when they're shooting it. So that was a fun thing to learn. Then I followed Doug in his footsteps. I watched Mad Max Fury Road, the black and chrome edition,
Ooh.
which I have been putting off for a long time. And a lot of it is because like I want to watch it, and then I begin watching it, and then I'm like, oh, I need the color. And so I just put it off. But you inspired me to check it out, Doug, and it was really worth it because it's like you really get to highlight the sort of the graphic composition of everything, and that was like really exciting. And then I watched a film inspired, I think, by some of the conversations I heard from Hugh Keys-Byrne, the guy who plays Morton Joe and Toe Cutter. He was in a couple of films, a couple of Ozploitation films, and I watched The Man from Hong Kong, which, as the name would imply, it's like a Australian Hong Kong collaboration, like Golden Harvest, and I think it's that film company or something like that. It's an Australian company. They came together to make like a martial arts Hong Kong film set in Australia. They fight on top of Uluru, which is a big rock in the middle of Australia, which is like you can't climb up there. So it's like this really cool oddity of like an action sequence that takes place there. Really cool movie. I think the main actor from Hong Kong was Jimmy Wang Yu or something, but it was originally going to be Bruce Lee, which is like it obviously he passed away. So it was like we kind of missed out on like one of the greatest movies freaking ever. But it's fine. It's really fun. And Hugh Keys-Byrne's in it, and he's like a comedic relief, and he's really good. Then I watched Evil Dead 2 for the first time. Fucking awesome.
For the
That's a
first
fucking
time?
Wow.
yeah, I've been putting it off forever. And just one night, Jen and I, we just decided, let's flick it on, and not expecting to be like, oh yeah, this is sick, this is fucking awesome, and it's just like this really awesome phantasmagoria, haunted house kind of thing. And again, like as you guys know, love House, the movie House,
Yeah.
and so I got a lot of those vibes, a lot of that. And I was like, why haven't I watched this like
Yeah,
sooner?
that's why it's
It was,
shocking that you
really
haven't
good.
seen it already.
Yeah,
That's why
I've
it's
been
so
putting it off for so
surprising.
long. I don't know why. Yeah, I watched I watched the first Evil Dead maybe a year ago, and then I was like, oh, I'll get to Evil Dead 2, but I just didn't get to it. Then I watched Army of Darkness, which was fun, which was just a fun time, but didn't quite hit the same lightning strike as I felt with Evil Dead 2. But it's fine. It's a cool idea, and I love the special effects in those. Like the comedic slapstick special effects are really interesting. And then I watched what we're talking about today, Furiosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that more later.
Yeah.
And then I watched an American raunchy. Oh, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I don't know if I was glitching there.
Yeah, we can.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, sorry. I watched an American studio raunchy comedy from 2018 called Blockers.
Oh,
Which
right.
totally out of nowhere. I don't know. I think that film was quite cheesy and
Yeah,
sweet, but
I want to
also
watch that.
very funny. Yeah, it's very funny. It's really good. My mate Luke swears by that film.
Yeah.
Really genuinely quite like it feels like a 2007 like comedy,
Right.
like a super bad.
You
Yeah,
haven't
Yeah.
seen
that
that,
kind of vibe.
Kevin?
No, I haven't seen it, but I know
It
people really
feels
like
like
it. Yeah, it feels like a
a
movie
Kevin movie.
I'd enjoy
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I've heard
Let's
from
dig it.
several people that it's one of the only kind of more recent comedies that rivals like the 2000s, early 2010s
Yeah.
stuff that we don't get much
100%.
anymore.
It very much has that feel.
Yeah, I gotta
Yeah,
watch that.
because I remember when it was like that Jennifer Lawrence one came out, and everyone was talking about, oh,
Right.
we're back
No
with
hard
the
feelings.
raunchy studio comedy. But it's like Blockers is right there, guys. Like Blockers
And
is
I don't
already
even
there.
think that the Jennifer Lawrence one was very good at that. So maybe I have to watch Blockers. Maybe that's what I'm
Yeah,
missing.
yeah. Like, with Blockers, don't set yourself up for like the gold standard of like super bad or some shit. But it's like it has its great moments. It is really funny. So just the one last thing on my watch list was Female Prisoner Scorpion Jailhouse 41. I was inspired to rewatch this because of Furiosa. It's a film that when I first watched it, I was like, this feels like a predecessor to like the Mad Max style, this film specifically. It's a 1970s exploitation, women in prison film, and it sounds like a kind of film that would be quite like risque and quite like exploitative. But like it's somehow manages to like mold this Pinku film idea, this like studio 70s Toei film into like this really awesome odyssey across a wasteland, which is why I watched it because of Furiosa. And they create this like mythology around this character who's this like woman in prison. And she like leads this group of women across this sort of wasteland to salvation. It's really good. It's really, really, really good. And yeah, when I first watched it, I was like, this could be what Furiosa is. And it's not quite, but there are some like a couple of visual things that I noticed while we were watching it. I was like, George Miller, he's seen this, he's seen this, and he knows. So that was exciting. Anyway, yeah, good film. Love
That is
this movie.
exciting.
It's so good.
Okay, I can go because I didn't watch too much this week. After our last recording, I rewatched. I say rewatched. I watched Jurassic Park while I played 2K with Owen, um, and then and then the next day I did rewatch Magic Mike 2. Um, those are two of my favorite movies, so nothing really to add to the conversation there. Later in the week, I watched Chime, the new Kiyoshi Kurosawa movie, which people have compared a lot to Cure, which is the only other movie I've seen of his. And I definitely get the comparisons. It's only 45 minutes long. I do recommend that people check it out. It's definitely one of the best things I've seen that has come out this year. And I want to watch more of his stuff, although I hear a lot of it is much scarier than Cure. So I don't know how well equipped I am to handle it because Chime was quite creepy. I mean, there's like a scene. Chime's only 45 minutes long, and there was like a 10-minute portion in there where I was just like really fucking nervous, and it was a lot. And I was watching it in like broad daylight. But fantastic movie. He's amazing. I watched Furiosa, which we'll get to. And then last night I rewatched Fury Road because of Furiosa, which again we'll get to. And then today, to celebrate a certain film winning the highest prize at Cannes, I watched Tangerine. I don't want to talk about that too much because we'll talk about it in the news. But Tangerine was very, very good. Owen, what did you watch?
Okay, I had a kind of a busy week. Just getting some time to go through some stuff. I did watch the first two of the older Mad Max movies. Um, and I like those. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. I rewatched Paranoid Park, the Gus Van Sant
Right.
film, and then I also rewatched Goodwill Hunting. And then I was like full
Van
Gus Van
Sant mode.
Sant mode. So I watched To Die For,
Oh,
which
I
I hadn't
really want
seen
to watch that
before.
one. That's the one that they released a Criterion for recently, right? I
I'm
think.
pretty sure, yeah, it's with Nicole Kidman,
Right. Yeah.
Matt Dillon, really young Joaquin Phoenix, or I mean,
Oh, I didn't even know Joaquin Phoenix was in
younger
it.
than we're used to, 97,
Yeah.
or 95. It has Casey Affleck's first role.
Oh shit.
Really, really, really good stuff. Then I watched The Tomb of Dracula, which shout out Grief for putting on this one. This is an old animated film from the 80s, and there was online. There's I think it was a 16 millimeter like scan that was really neat. Um, Interesting stuff. It's like a Dracula like little thing. And then I was interested by that film in like 2D animation and I was interested in like kind of just visual language and in terms of like the way that 2D animation can be used, and I wanted to go back and watch some older 2D animation stuff to kind of for like academic purposes, but also just like revisiting some old films that I haven't seen in like a decade or two. Um, and so I rewatched Bambi, um, and that movie is like kind of astonishing in terms of like an achievement. And I'm
Yeah.
interested. I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep going back and watching some of these older, not only just the Disney stuff, just older 2D animation, because I'm just thinking about for my own process and having like just creation through 2D images without a camera and just like
Mm.
digital ideas or ideas I can think of and concepts that you can create with cameraless kind of processes. So that's kind of something that sparked my interest with the 2D animation. So after watching Bambi, I rewatched Snow White, which is another one of those old Disney films. And I'm gonna, yeah, so that's like a kind of an academic research thing that I'm gonna continue over the summer is some 2D animation stuff. And then I rewatched one from the Heart, which is just like all time classic. Got to keep watching that one. Um, and I watched Steven Soderbergh's Full Frontal, which is a really interesting film that I I would never have expected it to be like structured in the way that it is, because it like reminds me of like a less annoying, but like similar. Like it's just like I don't know. Maybe that's just like my reference point, but it like reminds me of like an episode of The Office in the way that it's like this kind of mockumentary way. Like it feels like a sitcom and like a structured way, but it's also like a 96 minutes Soderbergh film. But it there it's very I don't know. I liked it, but it was like the things I was relating it to weren't like things that
What
I
you like?
hold like to the highest. But it was interesting because I'm always interested in like or I guess I've always been interested in uh like the way that sitcoms operate in terms of like structure and like the way that you relate that to like a more film space and like the way that kind of television has interesting narrative structures that don't always cross over. But it was like there's I don't know, it's a bizarre film, and I think it's like it was a follow up to a more successful picture. Like it was 2002, so Soderbergh was like a known filmmaker, and like Brad Pitt's in it, like there's a cameo and stuff. So it's very like kind of experimental, I guess, a narrative film that he made. But he's always been making like very
Yeah.
like interesting like low budget kind of narrative experiments. And then after watching Furiosa, I was doing some George Miller work, and
Oh
I
yes.
We're
watched
back.
I watched Babe, which he wrote and produced, and that movie's a whole lot of fun, right? And then I watched Babe, Pig in the City, which he directed,
He's in the
which
city this time.
he is
Babe out
Babe
the country.
Babe is in the city, and that is like kind of the most batshit movie ever made. Very interesting. I was watching, I think it was a Variety video. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was George Miller, and he was talking about Jurassic Park, actually, like Kevin mentioned, and that being like some like early digital with like the fact that like they created the dinosaurs and stuff, and how that like Jurassic Park, it then leads into the creation of like, oh, now we can make animals talk.
Right.
So then there's Babe, and then the I think it was a cinematographer or someone who I'm pretty sure it's a cinematographer who worked on Babe, probably Babe and Pig in the City. Then he went to work on Lord of the Rings, and then he's showing George Miller these like Gollum like test footage stuff, teaching him about mocap and stuff, and then that obviously like leads on to later stuff, but just the evolution of like this digital tech that George Miller was kind of like seeing through his own eyes was very interesting. but yeah, Babe Pig in the City is very insane because you have
Mm,
less humans, more animals, and you're these like crazy elaborate like set designs. Like the city is
yeah.
basically made up of like every city ever, and it's like it's this very
I I
fascinating
grew up I grew up with
film.
that film. I watched it as a kid a lot. And I haven't seen it since I was a kid, and it just feels like this like really strange fever dream. Like as far
Yeah.
as I remember it, like I'm just like that film doesn't exist, and like the way you describe it, I'm like it does, like it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and it's like really like when you describe like how does he direct the animals, and I'm thinking back to my childhood memories, I'm like, yeah, like how the fuck did he do that? Like it felt like something out of a dream. Like it's like
Yeah, yeah,
insane that
yeah.
that's real and that's captured on camera. Yeah, no, it's yeah, that film, like I need to revisit it. I'm really
Well,
excited
it's
to.
very fascinating because it's like then obviously there's like all this like there's all this movie magic and stuff, but there's like you'll have
Yeah,
these scenes where you'll have like cats, dogs, monkeys, pigs, and like
yeah.
ducks just like all in the same shot. And it's like how was this like normal for like 10 seconds? Like how did this
And they're
not?
just like dapping it up, and they're just like chilling out. It's really weird. Like it's just like they're hanging out. Like, how the fuck
Yeah,
do you do
yeah,
that? Like
yeah,
it's kind
yeah,
of crazy.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
I understand like making them talk is like
Wait, are
special
these real
effects and stuff.
animals?
They're real and
Yeah, yeah.
they're
It's crazy.
like
It's
their
definitely
special
It's
effects
definitely exploitative.
yeah, there's
Like
no way it was like healthy for these animals. Like
no,
there's no way there was like non animals harmed in the making of any of this.
no.
Um
Wait, this looks
but like
crazy. These are like real monkeys.
no, it's like them talking and stuff, like the mouths moving
Yeah.
and stuff is the special effect part. But the animals
Mhm.
like they're not like CGI animals. They're
They're
like
hitting them
Oh,
real.
up.
I see.
Yeah, yeah. No, there's moments where like it's like one of the chimps or something, or I don't know what it's some sort of monkey, but he like puts his jacket on or something. It's like or it's
It's like
like
a
his
leather jacket. I remember like he adjusts it and shit.
yeah,
Like,
and then
like it's crazy.
he like turns around. They're hitting their marks and stuff. It's
Yeah.
outrageous
How do
stuff.
you block a scene with a monkey?
It's like
How do you do that?
I
I
don't
don't
know,
know. George Miller can do it.
unreal. But yeah, so it was like I think I definitely think I've seen Babe before, but I was having like a hard time because I've seen Charlotte's Web
Right.
before, and I've
Which is
seen so she
another.
grew up with Charlotte's Web and probably Babe, but all those kind of pig little those things kind of blend together. But
Yeah.
Babe Pig in the City is so outrageous that would have not blended in with Charlotte's Web. That would have stood out. So I definitely haven't seen that one before, and that was definitely a treat. Um, so that's like one of my favorites of his. And then okay, so I watched Stuck on You, which is a Peter Farley, Bobby Farley movie. Who they are like
They're famously the directors of Green Book
comedic
among
comedic. Well,
among other
that
movies.
yeah, that was just Peter Farley, but
Right.
they also have made movies like Ricky Stenicki.
Yeah,
You
no. I mean,
know,
I saw you log that movie, and then I saw who was directing it, and then I had to go back and refresh my letterbox and see that you gave it a positive rating. I was like, oh, that
Dumb and
threw me
Dumber.
off. Yeah, I mean, they've
You
done Dumb
know,
and Dumber. They've made movies that people like.
the greatest beer run ever. That
Right.
was a
Yeah.
recent one. But this is a movie that came out in 2003 with Matt Damon and other Greg Kinnear here, and then Cher is in the movie and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it's about these conjoined twins that grow up on Martha's Vineyard. Good old
Is Greg Kinnear
Massachusetts.
the other twin?
Yeah,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
it's Matt Damon and Greg, and they're in Martha's Vineyard, and they have a good life. They have a restaurant, and then Greg's character is Walt. Walt and Bob are the two twins, and they both they're really good hockey goalies on their like team because they're like both in the goal. It's like, and they're flipping burgers and stuff. It's like an episode of SpongeBob. Because they're like running the restaurant, and they're doing they have this shtick where if they can they can get the meal out in a certain amount of time, or so the people order, right, and then there's a time, and if the food does not come out here in a certain time, they get the food for free. And then you switch over to them in the kitchen, and they're like two of them, and they're like doing all this crazy shit.
Yeah, they're doing
getting the
SpongeBob stuff.
Yeah, they're doing like
Okay.
crazy, like Looney Tunes, SpongeBob, flipping the patties and stuff, getting them out super fast, so that they obviously never fail. But Walt, the other half of Matt Damon, he wants to become a big time actor, right? So they're doing at home in Martha's Vineyard. He does these plays, and basically he just goes out and does the play with Matt Damon just on his like side, and Matt Damon hates. He has like terrible straight stage fright, so Matt Damon is like sweating profusely because he doesn't want to be up there while his brother Walt is like delivering the play, and but so they have their like issues and all that. But Walt wants to, go to Hollywood and be a big star. So they go to Hollywood and he tries to become an actor, but he has Matt Damon like attached to him who doesn't want to be an actor, and like chaos ensues. So it's a really great time. I highly recommend that one. It's called
Highly
Stuck
remember
on
it.
You.
I
Yeah, no,
highly remember that movie.
This is my favorite. It's my favorite thing we've ever talked about on the podcast.
it's
You
it's
just-
really great. It's an all-time Massachusetts movie.
okay.
Shout out Massachusetts.
Is
And then
that the last one?
no, I have more. So then I watched 1 week the Buster Keaton film because I was like in a
Oh,
comedic
yeah.
mood, and that movie is great. There's
That
the whole
movie's
the house
so good.
spins, and
It's
like,
so
how
good.
do you do that? I don't
No,
know.
how do you do that? You people die. That's how you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, but
It's
this is,
crazy.
I mean, really like unreal comedic, timing. Like kind of, you can see like the forefronts of like visual comedic comedy here. All like this is just full of like Looney Tunes gags where he's the classic like where he's on the wood and he's here and he's sawing it off on the house and he falls and stuff like that. Really great stuff. And then I just rewatched Mad Max Fury Road after seeing Furiosa, just to you know get my full thoughts on that movie, and get it to kind of fully with the kind of saga that we have now, and I think it really enhances Fury Road for sure. But yeah, that's my little busy week.
Doug?
Kevin, did you end up watching? Did you watch Fury Road
Yeah, I
after?
watched
Okay.
Fury Road yesterday, which I mentioned about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, well, it was like 20
Live on
minutes
the
ago. That's
recording.
why
Yeah.
it was,
We are also going to talk about that during Furiosa. Anyway, what did you watch, Doug? Besides
um,
Furiosa 7 times.
hold on. Okay, I watched Mad Max
Okay.
twice in the
Yeah.
same day. I watched it with some family, and then right after we watched it, I like went into my room and I fucking watched it again, but like I watched the black and chrome edition, and I watched it without sound.
Mhm.
Very cool, very good movie. Doing that, I think, kind of really, it's like, oh yeah, no, it is like as good as you could possibly imagine it being. um like cements that. Then I rewatched Poison. Shout out Poison, the Wes Anderson short, and I watched. Okay, and the only other thing that I watched that's unrelated to the pod is Piranha 2: The Spawning, and some very short words on Piranha 2: The Spawning.
Yeah.
It's good. I don't know. It's good.
Those are short words. Yeah, those words were definitely short.
Yeah, it's people it's I feel like the gut reaction is to be like, "Oh, this movie fucking sucks," because it's like, "Oh, it's a James Cameron movie that's bad, right?" It's it's like, he didn't write the movie, he did not produce the movie. He was like a young kid that got hired to direct a shitty fucking little movie. But guess what? I like shitty little fucking movies sometimes, and this one
Yeah.
was good. So that's my take on Piranha 2.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, okay, we've got a lot of Furiosa to talk about, and I'm gonna really just let you guys loose on this one. There is a couple things I did want to talk about, like just in general, but I guess like a good place to start would be, since Nalbis is our guest, of course, to kind of talk about your relationship to the Mad Max movies and
Oh, okay.
obviously like George Miller, I guess in general, since like lots of that I imagine that holds lots of weight in Australia. Just all of that. Give us the breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up with Mad Max on the periphery of my childhood, in the sense that like I personally wouldn't turn it on to watch it. I would put on my own movies, but my dad was a Mad Max guy.
Hmm.
He loved all the films, and like I'd always see the DVDs for those films just sitting on the shelves, and you know the iconic stance of Mel Gibson in that leather jacket was like always just there. And I'd always seen lots of moments in the film stick out to me as like things like, oh, I remember seeing that as a kid. I remember this, and like I definitely had seen all the films throughout my childhood here and there. But again, as I said, I didn't actively go and choose to watch those movies, so it was just sort of like they were sort of like memories for me. And so that sort of revisiting those films later in life, sort of gaining a new appreciation for them, especially from the lens of like Mad Max, the first one, as like an Ozploitation biker gang movie, like very very low budget, and from the perspective of like George Miller as a doctor. So he was a doctor before he did that film. He was a surgeon, and he would get a lot of like people that had suffered major injuries in road accidents. And
Yeah.
a lot of that was what inspired and influenced his sort of vision for this crazed world of, uh, you know, high octane adrenaline junkie bikers and night riders riding off into the distance. It was sort of this really crazy vision that he had, this nightmare that he had, and I don't know, it's really inspiring. It's really awesome, and I think people kind of overlook that first Mad Max movie quite a lot. Um, and then Mad Max 2 for me, it's sort of like it's like grown for me. But uh, like rewatching it recently, I sort of solidified it as like this movie is like phenomenal. I think it's a really awesome hero's journey film. And like I'm just totally stunned by it. It's shot, as I said, in Broken Hill, and it like really takes advantage of like the scenery and stuff. Thunderdome's Thunderdome's all right. And then yeah, and Fury Road for me was this movie that I saw in 2015 in cinemas. I just turned 18, and it was sort of this almost initiation into my adulthood of like being like, I'm going to see Mad Max Fury Road in cinemas, and it was sort of this almost like my dad grew up with these movies. My dad watched these movies, and then I get to sit down and watch Fury Road in cinemas, and it was just like this like biblical experience. It was really wonderful. But yeah, in Australia specifically, more over east because I'm in the western states. The Mad Max films are shot, I think, between Sydney and Melbourne, that sort of area there. So there's a lot more culture around them there. There's a museum my parents went to, I think, I want to say like 5 months ago or something. It was a Mad Max museum where there's these guys who came from the UK set up like a whole museum of like Mad Max memorabilia, old cars and props and everything like that. There's really fascinating thing that I would love to go to, but I didn't go to that. So yeah, it has this like kind of cultural touchstone. In a way, it's sort of like our stance on cinema. It kind of came at a time where the Australian film industry was sort of coming into form in the 70s. So yeah, like it sort of is something we always look to and something we're really sort of proud of. But I don't really see a lot of people talk about Mad Max, but like if you come here, like car culture's a big thing, and it's sort of, I
Right.
think it just echoes what people are really interested in here, which is cars and revving and going down four-wheel driving through the bush and stuff like
That's
that's really it here.
interesting.
And the dialogue too, the dialogue and the slang. Like if obviously with Mad Max, I'm sure you guys have noticed it more because you guys aren't from Australia, but just a lot of that dialogue is very like they use a lot of Australian slang, but a lot of it is like really like like they like merge like Latin, like weird, like Immortan Joe, like his name's fucking
Right.
Immortan and Joe, like
Yeah,
it's
the
like this
names are
really like
so funny.
mixing like casual colloquial
Right.
Yeah.
Australian slang with like this sort of mythological thing that he's got going on, like the humongous and all this like cool shit like that, like
Yeah.
the Night Rider and the Thunder Bike. It's like this got this cool language that like sort of I feel like we associate with our lingo that we have here in Australia. So I love that kind of stuff. Anyway,
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that brings us to Furiosa, the movie that Doug has seen 24 times.
And counting. Yeah.
So where would you like to start, Doug? Because you
I thought you were like
yeah,
just tossing the ball over here.
yeah, because I mean, you know every detail of the movie now.
yeah,
You can, what's most
Every
important?
detail. There's so many details. Well, okay. So I think that the best place to start when talking about Furiosa is to acknowledge that that this is I'm sorry, my neighbors are having a party like right on the other side of that wall. I can hear them talking, so if you
We
can hear
can't
them
hear them.
talking,
We
okay.
can't hear them.
I'm
I can't
sorry.
hear them.
But so I think it's important to acknowledge that in Furiosa, right? The first face that we see is the history man at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Mm-hmm.
and then the last voice that we hear at the end of the movie is also the history man.
Indeed.
So it's like this and a lot of people have already kind of talked about how Furiosa is more explicitly talking about or explicitly playing into the themes of Mad Max, or this idea of Mad Max being like myth building, or actually like a legend and not a plot, you know.
Yeah.
Um and I think because this movie is pretty it's in the text of the film that it is the history man who's really just like a lore master.
Yeah.
Um
Lord Dumper.
basically
Just a
being
guy
like,
that knows ball.
yeah, he's like, okay, here's the story of Furiosa, you know. And that's kind of like what we're watching is him telling the story of Furiosa, which is, I think that is interesting and almost important to understanding before you try to attack the plot of the film, because
Yeah.
a lot of people will, I don't know, it's like, because it's not the, I don't what's his name, Alex was on a few episodes ago, and he was talking about Star Wars canon, and he was like, canon really means something to me, right? And he was talking about
Mhm.
how important Star Wars canon is. That's not like, that is not as important in Mad Max, where it's like the canon, the canonical like events of things are not as important, because it's not, it is about like part of it is about like the stories being passed down through language and how those like
Yeah.
shift and change. I like to think about it as, we're not watching a movie about the historical Furiosa. We're watching a movie about the biblical Furiosa. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is a little interesting. So I think that's like the first thing I kind of want to throw out there to kind of, before we talk about anything else that
If
happens either
if
narratively or filmmaking. It's like
if I
that is
can lay
that
something down on that as well, sorry, is I know we're getting delays, so like that's probably I cut you off there. But I just want to lay it down as well, because I did acknowledge sort of the connection to Australian sort of history and stuff. But it is pretty important for me to mention as well that this idea of passing on stories, this idea of sitting around the campfire and telling myth and telling stories of old, is something that's really rooted in the Indigenous people of Australia. Like that's something that's so powerful here, is the idea that there are these people that have existed and lived in Australia for 60,000 years, and they have stories that they've passed down all that time. There's things like, so in my city, Perth, there is an island that's off the coastline called Wajamup, and that used to be connected to the mainland. And there are stories these Indigenous people have told about it being connected to the mainland. And when colonists came along, they basically were like, "That's crazy. That's stupid." Then obviously science improves. We prove that it was connected to the mainland tens of thousands of years ago. But people 200 years ago remember this because of stories being passed down. So stories and the idea of, and you mentioned it in your review, is the idea of stories being passed down in a wasted land. We've Australia has been ravaged by colonialism, and these Indigenous people, their homes have been taken away, but yet their stories still manage to live on and exist, and that's such an important thing. And I think that is something I wanted to mention, as something that I think is really important about what Mad Max, of the undertones of what Mad Max is about. And I think George Miller really respects that, and he really puts that into it. A character like the History Man feels like an Indigenous elder of Indigenous. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to throw that out there before we continue, but I think it's very important.
No,
Oh,
that's
that's
like
interesting.
super
Yeah.
important insight. Yeah, and you already mentioned. I mean, we can talk about George Miller since you just mentioned him, who kind of,
Mhm.
I think we can all agree, makes a movie that nobody else in the world can make.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah. George Miller. It's like there's like such like specific. I don't know. He's a crazy guy. There's technical stuff that he's able to do that other people just aren't able to do as like he can. It's really
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy.
Well, there's that Soderbergh quote where he's
Right?
like,
Yeah.
"I watched Fury Road, and I'm just like, I don't know
He
how
was like, I
this.
couldn't
I
direct
don't know how
10
this
seconds of
works,
this.
and I don't know how everyone doesn't die making this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's very fascinating.
um so yeah, the first face we see is the History Man, and then we go
Mhm.
directly into the first fucking title card, which is
Yeah.
the pole of inaccessibility. It says one, the pole of inaccessibility, and then the next thing
That
we see
is
is fucking Australia,
Yeah.
which yeah,
right into the
super
middle. Yeah.
really yeah, drop down right into the green place, like with like the fucking smack middle of Australia. Really interesting because the pole of inaccessibility, right? Uh, it feels like that it's reminding us that this movie takes place on Earth, and
Yeah.
uh which I know that like it's like in like in Mad Max 2, my favorite part of Mad Max 2 is honestly the introduction, because it's like pretty prolonged and there's like, crazy images of like just like human destruction and stuff. Um but a movie like Fury Road, right? Fury Road feels like it takes place on Mars, and it doesn't have that and it doesn't have like the Mad Max kind of like introduction of like there was a nuclear fallout. It starts with Max being like crazy. I was crazy once, and then him getting fucking dragged across the wasteland.
Yeah.
Um, where this movie, it feels like
Mhm.
almost a correction to be like, this takes place not only on Earth, this takes place in Australia,
Yeah.
and these are people that may or may not remember how the things used to be. uh,
Mhm.
so I think that's an interesting decision, because showing a zoom into Australia is so fucking like a specific decision. Instead of just
Mhm.
you could do anything else. You could literally do anything else. But like that
Yeah.
zoom into Australia is very interesting, especially calling it the pole of inaccessibility, right? And the way that it kind of like the Earth moves to the camera and it's zooming in, it's like I was thinking about it is he's calling this whole continent up the pole of inaccessibility. Like Australia is so inaccessible in terms of like a piece of land to get to or to escape,
Yeah.
or like the wasteland itself is something that like, oh, you're fucking stuck in. There's nowhere else in the world for these people other than the wasteland. um uh or maybe just like the green place is an inaccessible place specifically, because we see Furiosa, right? And we're in the green place, the green place of many mothers, a place that was referenced so much in Fury Road. And it kind of sounds fake, right? In Fury Road,
Yeah.
where they're like, oh, you passed it, it's a marsh, and it's like, yeah, of course you did. This cannot exist, right? What do you mean there is no green place? You're in the wasteland. But here it is literally a paradise. There's a
Mhm.
shot where it's the first shot where we see Furiosa's mother, and Furiosa's mother rides off in the horse to go save her. And it like the shot like holds on just the green place, and there's fucking green stuff, like plant life everywhere. There's solar panels everywhere. There's solar panels.
Yeah.
There's like windmills, and it goes on forever. It's like I'm assuming it's green screen, but it looks like a matte painting.
Right.
It's like
Right.
it
Yeah.
looks like it's actually looks like paradise. It's so like kind of ridiculous. uh
It's very. I mean, you have that scene with Furiosa, then it's in the trailer where she's grabbing the fruit. And
Mhm.
it's kind of. I guess you talked about like it being like biblical earlier, but it is this very like Garden of
Garden of
Eden like
Eden.
scene where you're. even the fruit and everything. It's a very biblical way to start the movie. And this is one of the parts that like the addition of this and seeing this for the first time definitely, especially with like all the events that transpire, enhances Fury Road, because again we never see the green place, and when Furiosa talks about it and all this stuff and getting back there, but you never see it. So finally seeing it and getting the rest of the stuff that happens in this movie, but seeing it and understanding that it is real and seeing it in actuality, definitely both is like a brilliant way to start the movie and the kind of the only right way to start the movie, but also just adds so much to the other film, which I think
Yeah.
is, outside of this movie being fantastic on its own, maybe the biggest thing that it does is, makes Fury Road, which is already a great movie, even a better one.
Yeah, I mean, what Doug said, like what Doug said about how perfect the green place looks. It's like when I watched Fury Road yesterday, and then you get to like that scene, like
Yeah.
the really sad one. You're just like, fuck, dude, like that shit hurts so much more. I was like, because you couldn't like visualize it when you're
Mhm.
watching Fury Road so many years ago,
Yeah.
and
Well, you don't
now I
know.
can't
I mean, it
picture it
could have been
without
just
it.
like little spot,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
don't
what
know
Doug is
how
saying is
good
true.
it
Where like
was.
when you watch Fury Road, you think that this is just a place that never existed. Like you think this is like a
Yeah.
made up thing, and now
Like a dream,
now
yeah.
you know it's not when you watch Fury Road, and now you can't separate that information from Fury Road. So
Yeah.
like that scene is just like, I mean, it's like a whole different movie now.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the wasteland is so brutal and harsh in contrast that like it's very stark, and it makes like the loss of all that so much more, because
Yeah,
I mean, you already knew that like all the stuff that Furiosa, like the shit that she goes through.
yeah,
I mean, maybe not to the extent of what happens in the film, but you knew that bad things happen to her, and she never actually gets back. Right?
yeah,
Yeah. That's
Like once she leaves, she's not coming back.
there's
yeah,
a I think that the biblical uh kind of like comparison to be like, oh, this is like the Garden of Eden, I feel like that is very intentional, and it goes farther to it being like you can't leave the Garden of Eden, because if you leave the Garden of Eden you can't come back, you're killing it, right? It's like,
right,
oh, you can grab the forbidden fruit, right? It's like these are decisions that you can make. You could grab the fruit, you could leave the garden, but then once you do that it's over.
Well,
um
there's a line, I don't know it exactly, but it's there's one of the girls or the women, and it's Furiosa's mom, Mary Jo Bassa, and she's leaving to go chase after Furiosa, and the woman says like no one who leaves can like stay alive or whatever. Like it's like
Yeah.
no one who like seen this place can survive, right?
right,
And
yeah, no one can
it's
know of this
she's
place is
saying basically like she's saying like the people who saw it, like that weren't supposed to be here, who came in here, they can't leave and survive. But it's also like the people like Mary Jo Bassa and Furiosa, they can't like ever come back here. Like that's not like how this, like it's like it works on both
yeah,
levels, and that's like I don't know. Just saying that again, it's such just like a sad little
Yeah.
line
There's
because
there's a lot of connection I see there again with like sacred lands and colonialism there as well. It's that idea of like once it's been purged by outsiders, suddenly that it's been sort of um like poisoned in a way, and the Furiosa and her mother have sort of been in a way infected by the outsiders, the colonialists as well. So it's sort of like them going back into the sacred land, sort of that they use a term in this quite a lot. Like the soil is sour. They use that quite a lot in these movies as well, and a lot of that seems to like have a bit of a colonialist sort of idea. And I mean, obviously, if we get into this movie later, there is a lot of like references to war and that connection to
right.
to men and the rulers and stuff. So yeah, there is a lot of that in there as well. But yeah, I love that read on like biblical, but also colonialism as well there.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what language does the blonde woman speak to Furiosa's mom when she says that? Like, no one here, no one can, like, no one can survive that knows about this place, right? Like, because they're not speaking English, it was subtitled. Are they? Is it like
I'm not so
Latin?
sure. I'm not so sure. Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. I didn't
I just
recognize
that's
it as
something I
anything.
picked up and I was like, what the fuck? Like it's like nobody else in any of these other movies ever speaks not English.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I was like that okay.
that is an interesting
That's
detail. Yeah, I wonder if like I could find out. But I'm gonna do side research while you guys continue.
Yeah.
But another thing about like very specifically this very like early on in the Green Place thing that I wanted to bring up is it really hit me watching it so many times where I'm like, oh man, Furiosa, that's what they just call that girl, right? And maybe it could be a nickname, right? But
Mm.
Furiosa is not the name of a person. Like that's not like Furiosa is not like what you name a person. It's almost like it
Yeah.
feels more like a title. Like oh that is the woman that is the female personified fury, that is fury like turned into a woman, that is Furiosa. um and that kind of I think is really interesting because it kind of for me it goes back into like, oh yeah, Furiosa is a legend, not necessarily a real person. And I'm not even saying like, I think that maybe even just this part of the story, like this movie part could be the legend, and then you could have like Fury Road could doesn't even is like a different thing. But like uh yeah, but it's like maybe she just goes by Furiosa. Nobody knows what her real name is. So it's like, oh yes, this is just who Furiosa is. She's always been Furiosa.
Yeah,
Because it's like, I don't know, that's like you don't call like Furiosa's not a name of a kid. You know what I mean? Like
sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I guess I wanted to get into this a little bit earlier, but that's a good way to get into it, I guess. When you're talking about like Lamas brought up the campfire stories and like passing things on and on and on, and that was something like there was some this idea of the storybook chapter and the history man and the passing things on. I found it to be a very interesting thing that also worked perfectly in the way that George Miller has decided over the years to cast these characters, because we originally have Mel Gibson, right, who plays Max in the older movies. And then in 2015, it's Tom Hardy now.
yeah,
And you had Charlize Theron, who did in Fury Road, who was Furiosa, and now we have Anya Taylor-Joy. And in this movie, for the first 3 chapters, it is not Anya Taylor-Joy who plays Furiosa. It's a kid actress, and we'll get into how when Anya Taylor-Joy appears, right? But I was really struck by that decision to not show Anya for the X amount of minutes, and I was continuing to think about it over the course of the movie, and that whole idea of the legend of Furiosa and passing it down, and Furiosa being played by different actresses, and not knowing how their end, the way they end the movie is like they don't know how X, Y, and Z happen. Like there's different like ideas, and like it's kind of like a muddied myth and whatever. So this idea of like this legend, and you don't know exactly how they looked, and exactly the certain details. And I think they're like the way that intertwines with like the different castings of, because Anya Taylor Joy is definitely trying to do some of what Charlize Theron was doing in 2015, but I
Yeah.
do think like it just works on this like level of like it being, it's so like literary in like a literature sense. It feels like the way that the narrative of the film works is in such a way that it's like it's working in a myth sense only, not in a way to be like, this is the big Anya Taylor Joy movie. It's like this is the myth of Furiosa,
yeah,
right? It's like, and Anya Taylor Joy is great in it, and it works as like a way to be like, this is our superstar. This is like she's like the biggest superstar ever. But it's not like, oh, how do we make Anya Taylor Joy be the superstar? It's like, how do we create this myth? How do we showcase this legend of Furiosa while also working in a way that is so beautifully intertwined with Fury Road? And like you were saying, like you don't even know if that's like the same version of Furiosa, and like it's like the like kind of canonized version of it is like a muddied thing. And you brought up like Star Wars, and it's we always like there's always that joke of like Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness and him like getting like really old like a short period of time, right?
Yeah.
But in this version of it, or the not this version of, but like the way that Mad Max works and the way that George Miller kind of operates Furiosa in this sort of legend sense is like they could be completely different races. They could be completely different, like whatever. Like they could look completely different. But it's like that's not what it's about. It's about like the myth of Furiosa rather than like any actor or any little thing. So I that was like the big thing that like there's so many like great elements of the movie, and I think there's so many great performances, and I think George Miller is incredible. But that was like the big thing that kind of like struck me as like kind of this like fantastic idea and way to orchestrate kind of a film franchise in the way that we're always like there's always some level of like casting issues or like there's the politics of cinema or whatever, but there was some way of like creating a story that kind of seems timeless in the way that it like boundless in the sense of like
Boundless is a good way to put it. Yeah.
campfire stories and just kind of I don't know, that stuff was really interesting to me, and that was probably the most interesting element for me for like a narrative sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I to just like to add on to that as well. The way I see it as well is like the casting choice sort of reflects to me the where the character is in her story. So like to me, like I look at Anya Taylor-Joy and like especially the eyes she has is sort of like the key to the soul. There is like she to me embodies someone that's vengeful, someone that's rage filled. And to me,
Yeah.
Charlize Theron, when I watch her and I see her perform, I look at her eyes, I see someone that's tired, that's older, that's seeking redemption. And I think those specific casting choices make sense for that story being told by the history man. The history man
Yeah,
is
yeah,
in specifically Furiosa is portraying in the way he uses his words, the way he talks about she's the darkest of angels, the fifth rider of the apocalypse.
yeah.
To me, I don't see a Charlize Theron there. I see an Anya Taylor-Joy, someone who's got rage in her eyes, a fire in her eyes, who's got a piercing look, that just the determined expression, which Charlize Theron has a little bit. But again, as I said, she has that tired, aged determination that feels like it's a seeking of redemption. So it's like there's choices there that feel like it's made to support the storytelling choices. I don't think you could have Charlize Theron in Furiosa in this movie. I think it's a different type of story, and I feel like the choice of the actor isn't just we couldn't get Charlize. It's more of a no. This story needs someone that embodies this mode of feeling, which is this rage, this fire, which Anya has, especially in her eyes or expression.
Well, it's very bold to make a story like this and like it's prequel to a blockbuster and not have any of like the big like A-list names in it. And I'm sure you guys have seen it, but I'll kind of reiterate it for the podcast. But there was the article where George Miller was like, I thought about de-aging Charlize Theron, and I saw Ang Lee's Gemini Man, and I was like, no. And I mean, I love Ang Lee, but I think that it's like that. I think it makes sense. Like I think it might have. I understand. Like I think it's a bolder decision, but I think it works it's a way more interesting decision to recast bring in Anya Taylor-Joy. And I also like you already recast Max, right? So like why not do like why not have that be a part of like the myth of this franchise is these different actors playing these characters, and it's a very fascinating way to kind of
it feels deliberate. It feels deliberate.
Yeah. I'm curious if you guys have input on Alila Brown, since we're still plot-wise at least talking about the beginning of the movie where she is playing the young Furiosa before Anya Taylor-Joy shows up.
She's so good. Honestly, also, she plays like Curl, the kid Furiosa, right?
Yes, the young Furiosa,
she looks so similar to Anya Taylor-Joy.
There's like moments where you think it's Anya
really
Taylor
did.
Joy. Like there's
wasn't
like,
sure who
I
it was.
thought that she was
especially
like
the
deep
one.
faked. I was like, did they deep fake the poor
There's
kid?
the one scene that stood out to me
Well,
specifically was when she's like hanging off the motorcycle and it's like close on her face, and I'm like, wait, are they like, I'm like, is that the
Yeah.
actress I just saw, or is something
yeah.
going on here?
So how much do
Flash
you guys?
forward, yeah.
I didn't know. I know there is like the use of AI with, but I don't. Was it an older version of the character or was it this version? I wasn't entirely sure when watching the movie, but I know like they talked about it like it's like because there's like this interview or this clip with Anya Taylor Joy and they were like, how did they find a kid that looked exactly like you? And they were basically like, what we did is they used like technology and AI to kind of combine the faces. So I'm not sure. My understanding was that it was the little girl from the beginning because it didn't really make sense for them to do it. But because there's like a clear moment where it's like, oh, that is 100% Anya Taylor Joy. Like I know that's like, but I wasn't sure
Yeah.
if that was like a kid version because she still looked a little younger in that moment. So I wasn't sure if that was when the AI was used or was it AI the whole time because that
So
was
Yeah.
the
okay, so
discussion.
what Anya says, right? I have it right here on the article. Anya
Yeah.
says, "quote So at the beginning of the movie, it's 35% my face, and then it
Okay.
goes all the way up to 80% my face
That makes
on the
sense
kid actress."
because
This
I
makes
was
total
like,
sense because I just googled the kid actress and
yeah,
I'm looking at a picture of
not
her
at
and I'm
all.
like, that is not Anya Taylor
It
Joy.
makes sense that they like scaled it up because I was like, there was at a point in the movie where I was like, okay, I know there's AI being used right now because it looks like a Anya Taylor Joy face on a younger body. But
Yeah.
like during the beginning of it, it was like this is still sort of Anya Taylor Joy, but
Mhm.
less. So yeah, that
Right.
makes sense. I was
It's like they're
that
turning up the
Yeah,
slider as the
you
movie
see
goes
it
yeah,
like
on.
yeah,
gradually.
which
Yeah,
is
you notice
a
it more.
very fascinating use of the technology, and I think works
Interesting.
perfectly in
It's
the
seamless.
way
It look. I mean,
it is
yeah,
seamless. It is seamless because the moment,
I didn't even
but
notice.
it's seamless in the way of like that's the character that Anya Taylor is meant to play. But the moment the slider hits a certain point, it's like boom, there's Anya Taylor Joy.
Yeah.
Like we're here. It's like this. It is an interesting way to do it because it's like a build up to finally seeing like Anya Taylor Joy as Furiosa. So it's an interesting way to like slowly add more of her face into this like
Right.
young actress, and then you finally see like Furiosa as Furiosa.
Yeah.
It's
so
yeah, very
we
interesting.
the movie kind of starts off immediately into an action sequence
Right.
where like we see Furiosa is like, really reaching for, the fruit, right? And then she sees these outsiders who are part like members of Dementis's biker gang chopping up a fucking horse. I don't know.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
she's like, okay, I know what this means. I have to like go be stealthy and like, make it so that they can't like get away. um Crazy for her to like take that
It's a
initiative.
really interesting character decision because it's like she did not like she's very like brave and almost brave to an extent of like being dumb and you kind of see that a little bit later on where she like does something that like probably was not in the best interest of her like life
Right.
and is it's like it's her and Valkyrie who is in Fury Road. She meets up back with her in Fury Road and
Yeah.
they're in this thing, and she's like, "You chill the fuck out here. Don't make a sound. I'm gonna go take on all these fully grown men."
Yeah.
and then she immediately gets fucking caught, and then gets like taken away.
And it's like this really kind of like crazy, no, it's not like crazy, like it's not crazy like how some of the later set pieces or how Fury Road is, but it's
Yeah,
crazy in like how intense it is. It's so long and there's so many, and because the chase sequences between Furiosa's mom, who's played by
Harley
kind of like
Fraser.
the brilliant,
Yeah.
yeah, Charlie Fraser, um
Mhm.
and Furiosa being kidnapped by these biker guys, and it's like really long. She's chasing them over like multiple days. There's Furiosa's trying to escape. Furiosa like almost escapes like a number of times, like narrowly, um, like fails, like narrowly fails. It's so intense, and that leads all the way up to um uh us getting to Dementis's camp.
Right. Meeting
Dementis,
Hemsworth.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, And well, even like right before when we first get to the camp, I think
It's
it's
not Chris
interesting.
Hemsworth immediately. It's
It's not
the
Chris. Yeah, it's
right.
I forgot. That's the guy with one eye. I forgot his
Yeah,
character's
yeah,
name.
Yeah.
But he on my fourth time watching the movie, I really clocked. I was like, okay, shut up. I was like, everybody in
Is
this
that
movie is
anything?
really dumb. Everybody in this movie is really dumb,
yeah.
except for the only people in this movie that aren't dumb are Immortan Joe and Furiosa. Every other character is
Yeah.
kind of dumb in this movie.
Well, that's like the key characteristic of Chris Hemsworth's character. Like
Yeah, he
Yeah,
just
that's like the
fucked shit
thing.
up.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing that makes his
constantly.
character what it is and like makes the movie what it is that like he's an idiot. Like,
because we meet this one-eyed guy and he is so fucking stupid for no reason, right? Because he meets the Furiosa's captor who, like, again, narrowly escaped Furiosa's mom. He meets Furiosa's captor, and he's like, oh, what do you have here? And he's like, I need to go talk to Dementis right now. And the guy with one eye is just like, okay, no, I'll go bring her to Dementis. And is like, are you fucking stupid? I need to go talk to Dementis right now. And he just like he's like for no reason is like pushing back on it. And he's like, okay, untie the girl. And he's like, no, don't untie this girl. What the fuck?
but
Um,
I imagine the reasoning is because he want like there's obviously like a hierarchy of power and like he wants
Yeah,
Dementis's approval or whatever. Like he wants Dementis's like he wants
yeah,
Dementis to like him.
yeah, no, it's the thing. It's like obviously like the guy that captured Furiosa, like the only reason he brought Furiosa here, because he could have just brought the horse meat.
Right.
They say this though. The reason why he brought Furiosa there was because he wanted to not get scummed anymore, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
like the little moment where him and his friend like do a little jolly like hug and dance thing while
Yeah.
Furios is running off because they're
but
all
I just
happy that they won't get
it really
scummed
struck
anymore.
me how it was a fatal failure on that guy with one fucking eye to be really dumb and be like, no, like I want the credit for this. You're gonna tell me where you got this girl from. And it's like, no, you're a dumbass. Because guess what? You untied the girl that he had tied up for a fucking reason. Obviously, she was tied up. He had her tied up for a reason. You untied her. She kills the guy basically. So now it's like,
Yeah.
oh, guess what? Now you have to go in there with the Mentis and be like, and it's like, you fucking idiot. And there's a bunch of other. We'll get to I have a list
Yeah.
of
You
all
don't
the
we don't have to
fucking
talk
dumb
about
things
every
people have
detail,
done.
but
We'll get there when we get there in the plot.
Yeah, yeah,
But that was
yeah.
the first thing where I was like, oh, people in this movie are fucking stupid. That was like the first like, kind of fatal mistake of the film, because if he didn't do that, if he like didn't untie Furiosa for no reason, because again, he tied up for a reason. It's like if he thought for 2 seconds, it's like, oh, it's a little kid that I have not recognized that's fucking tied up, right? I don't know. Then like he could have said where the green place was, and it could have been a whole thing. But then the plot of the movie doesn't happen. But yeah, um, so that was like the first fatal mistake, and then we see Dementis. The first thing that fucking Dementis says, it's kind of an incredible reveal, because like we see the back of his head, it's hooded. You don't see any of his features. The history man is explaining the history of fucking like the V8 Harley Davidson or whatever. And then he Dementis like turns his head, and like you like it's like slowly kind of like reveals his head, and you see his giant fucking schnauger and his like fake beard, and it's like he's looking at Furiosa. It's this really close up, and he's like, what does he say? He says, well, who are you then? I think is what he says. And it's immediately like, okay, that's the thing. That's the whole thing. This whole movie is about this guy and this girl. That's the whole thing is about their relationship. Um, and it's great. And then, some other stuff happens, and Furiosa's mom tries to save her, and then again, fatal failure. She doesn't kill a woman, another fatal failure. And that's why I'm like, Furiosa's mom's also kind of dumb, because it's like, you can't
Yeah.
show compassion like that in the wasteland to strangers that
Well,
kidnapped your daughter.
he's not.
Furios's mom has to die. Right?
Yeah,
There's like the whole thing in Fury
yes.
Road where she's like, I was at here for X amount of days and my mom lasted 3 of them. Right? So
Yes.
that you have to have like the chase has to be a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But in the end, Furiosa's mom, Mary Jo Bassa, has to die in 3 days. So
I also
there's
don't
this
know
guy,
that
and
that's like a fatal failure in the same way that something else is. I don't know that you can be
No,
like,
it,
I don't know that you
but
could be
Eric-
like, oh, someone showing compassion for like another mother.
But it
means
is-
they're
it led
fucking
to her death.
stupid. Yeah,
it is
sure,
a
but
moment
that's
that
not like
I
a.
did. I did think of that when I watched it again the second time. I was like, if you just shot this fucking lady.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
watching the movie over and
she
over
was
again, it's like fuck.
yeah, because
It's like,
But there's no way that
she,
that's like a
she aims the like fucking slingshot or whatever that thing is at her, and she's like, "I'm a mom too," and then she immediately goes and rats him out, and then they got the hounds on him.
yeah. But that's like a
because
that's not like a dumb person thing. That's like a no like
no,
Perhaps,
no,
but
yeah,
it's not like the most calculated way to stay alive.
sure
yeah.
sure.
And then we get the fucking chase scene back, and that is like 10 times more intense. Fucking Furiosa's mom, like
There was like the fire on her back.
Right.
crazy, and she like into the sandstorm, and she like gets off, like rolls around on the ground,
And then
like
keeps going. Yeah.
takes off the disguise.
And her back is like scarred as well. Like it's like all like
Yeah.
fucked up already.
She does never shows like a sign of, or like at least in that part where she's like injured, like it's all business.
Yeah, no, and the Dementis's dogs, who I think the dogs are fucking CGI like the whole movie, but the Dementis's dogs are
No more
like
animals for George Miller.
Yeah.
He's done with that bullshit. He's too old for
Dementis's
that.
dogs are tracking her injury, right? Because she's fucking bleeding. She has a gaping wound in her back,
Yeah.
and the mom understands, like, not understands that it's like specifically, but she understands that they're being tracked, right? So she's like, okay, we're gonna get up to this specific point, and then Furiosa, it's that great line from the trailer. It's like, no matter what you do, no matter how long it takes, you have to find your way home. Because that's the thing, that was the whole thing. I'm sacrificing myself to give you more time to go to try and find your way home. And then of course, Furiosa does not ride away into the sunset. She runs back.
Immediately goes.
No, like, and it's like frame, like she like drives a
Yeah.
little bit, and then she hears her mom scream, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, no,
Which
that
is
was
like,
that was like a thing where I was like, she does a thing at the beginning where she immediately runs into danger, and then she does it like 10 minutes later where she immediately runs back into danger after, and that's just her being like a kid and
Yeah, I mean that's
and
like
not
the
really,
most natural reaction.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean that's
absolutely,
like the worst thing
but
imaginable.
it's that sequence is beautiful. That when she's running back, or
Yeah.
the Furiosa's running back, and she runs back, and her mom is up on like she's crucified up
being
there.
crucified
Yeah,
and burned at the stake at the same time.
yeah. Crazy. He's
It
going crazy
reminded
on
me
the
of this Game of
biblical
Thrones. It
stuff.
reminded me of the Game of Thrones scene, but I don't think any of you guys watch Game of Thrones.
Nope.
Alas.
So
Okay.
it reminded me of a lot of stuff. I don't know. It's like obviously kind of like biblical reference because she's being crucified.
Yeah.
But then being like, she's like a witch being burned at the stake. It's so, I don't know. It's interesting. And then we get the first fucking super psycho shit shot of the whole movie, which, oh no, actually right before that even happens. It's Dementis says, "Give me a word burger." History man, give me a word burger. Um, about tears, and the history man
yeah.
says that his little thing about tears because Furious is crying, and then it's the reverse shot. It's a reverse shot of the history man crying, and that is so,
It's so
because
good.
it's like, because again, it's like the history man. He's the guy telling the story. It's like he's crying at the tale of Furiosa's mom, like the tragedy of the Furiosa's childhood. It's like bringing him to tears while he's telling the story. Very, very kind of crazy. And then we get the very crazy shot of bro just punched his computer. Very crazy shot of Furiosa. Of Furiosa's mom's burning like crucifixion in her eye. It was in the trailer, but
Yeah.
it's so. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. That's a lot.
This entire sequence as well, like what I love about this is, and it's in the whole structure of the film as well, is like, I think in most revenge movies, you set up your target. Basically, you're like, who are we getting revenge on, and why is it happening? Usually, you set that to be like, let's quickly get that, and now we're getting into the action. But this movie has like, how long is this? Like 20-25 minutes of like the movie?
Yeah,
Like
I mean the
it's
first
like
two chapters is like getting close to an hour.
what's what I was like.
Yeah.
I was saying earlier, like Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't appear for first like hour. There's this like very long setup to like half the movie is why she's doing the revenge stuff,
I don't
and the
even
other half
think
is like
it's a revenge movie until she loses her arm.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Right.
it's more of like her figuring shit out and like bad
Survival,
things happening to her. Yeah,
Yeah.
survival.
It's like
Yeah.
because she's so much more worried about getting to the green place than she is about caring about the Mentis at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't
Yeah,
you
looking
think
at
like
the arm
Yeah, no, for
stars.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she yeah.
And
That's actually wait. When she loses her arm,
That's
that's
like
the one
what's
with the tattoo,
stopping.
right?
Yeah, that's what's stopping
Exactly.
her
That's
from
why
getting
she
back.
can
Right.
never.
And that's
That's
why
why
she
she can
doesn't.
never find the place anymore.
Yeah.
That's because so once she loses her arm, this is me actually just clocking it right now. Once she loses her arm, she loses that, and that, like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know, this is
That's why
very
she
obvious.
can't.
Yeah.
She loses that, and then she's like, "Oh, my direction isn't here now. I've lost that. Now
Yeah.
it's pure revenge."
Mentis's
Okay, yeah,
stupidity has
Yeah.
at that moment, and that scene, the Mentis's stupidity had stolen literally everything from her. It was like he kept like stealing like bits and bits from her, but like once like he took her arm, it was like, okay, your stupidity has actually taken literally everything I've ever had at that moment, and it's like that's when it
Yeah.
turned into like, okay, now I have to kill you. Now it's
Yeah.
like my only purpose in life has shifted into getting revenge.
Yeah.
Right.
um but yeah, so that was that whole beginning sequence is what's it called,
First
the
chapter.
pole of
Right.
inaccessibility. um
And then we move on to number 2.
Lessons from the wasteland. And now this chapter is interesting, and I think that this chapter maybe is why, because I know that there are some people that don't like the way that this movie is structured, or think that this movie
Right.
has like pacing problems. And I think that this chapter is kind of where that comes from, because this chapter is a lot of Furiosa being a little passive,
Right.
because she's
She doesn't
literally
fucking talk. Yeah.
yeah, she doesn't talk. She's being held in a cage. She has a muzzle on her face.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But like
it's
it gives us so much insight into the world around her that like just what I mean, it's not the same movie if you don't experience the
yes.
world through her eyes. That so much of that second chapter, like even if she's passive or whatever, is
Yeah.
just like if it's going to be an odyssey about like this epic odyssey about her as a character, so much of who she is defined by like this world that she's at, like this wasteland that she's in, and the people around, like it's like obviously it becomes a revenge story like you say, but like it's not a revenge story at that point. It's her trying to like escape this place that she's trapped in. So it's like, of course, like, I don't know that
Yeah.
that's like a fair way to look at it. I get from a pacing perspective that I imagine people are going to be bored because it's there's a conversation to be had about like expectations versus reality, where like you watch Mad Max Fury Road and it's a 2-hour movie with an hour and 50 worth of action scenes, and this one is
Yeah.
a 2.5-hour movie with like an hour worth of action scenes. It's a big difference for a lot of people, I imagine. But like this is that like this is important stuff. Like
Well, I think
Yeah.
that's why they're great companion pieces. Like I think
right,
that's why they
because
work so
Fury
well
Road is
together, and
essentially just like a long climax for what
that's
you
why
just watched 2 hours of.
for me, not only do I enjoy Furiosa more, but it makes Fury Road better for me because there's the stuff that I was kind of missing or not really getting attached to in Fury Road. This movie kind of was allowing me to become more attached and get more comfortable with these characters and the kind of expansion of these guys. Like there's a lot of characters, and I saw Fury Road maybe a year or so ago, but there's a lot of characters when rewatching Fury Road, like the little guys, like I don't even a lot of their names, fly over my head.
The
Right.
people
But
eater.
there are guys like
Rick
a Morton Joe is like a big one, like you know him, right? But even like some of his other guys that he has running the places and stuff, and Bullet Farm and all that stuff, like all that stuff just becomes more familiar in this movie. That
Right.
when you visit them, it almost feels like Fury Road came after this. What it does in timeline order, but it feels like Fury Road was like the cake on the top of this. Like
Yeah.
this was this really feels like the foundation of this world, and then
Right.
Fury Road is like going buck wild and having fun with it.
But on like the reverse, it's almost like he needed to make Fury Road to make Furiosa, because it's kind of like this, like Fury
That
Road is
this
so
is the
much
more like
more.
sellable version of the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. So it's like you have to like
Yeah,
do Fury Road so that you could do this, and also like push the limits of like how you're going to tell the story with not
yeah,
just like, because
sure.
obviously so much of it is visual, and like he has main characters who don't talk. So it's like big difference between Fury Road, where
Yeah,
so much of that is presented to you like nonstop, and Furiosa, like we actually spend time with these people.
Yeah, and I think another like a narrative reason why Furiosa is this kind of passive observer in this section of the film, and calling it lessons from the wasteland, I think is very smart too, because it is. Listen, she is not from this place. She is like the truest
Mm.
outsider that like the wasteland has ever had in some ways. So she is
Right.
like in a situation where obviously like she's being protected by Dementis, right? So she doesn't have to like fight herself, fight for survival, but she's seeing all of these really like kind of terrible things happen around her, and she is adjusting and realizing like, okay, like this is how things are gonna have like trying to figure out like that
Right.
this is how things are gonna have to be if I'm gonna get home and try and find
And
like
survive.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
how is she gonna survive independently, and it's her figuring that out. This whole section is just that, is like her figuring out, how do I survive and get home, how do I learn how to play the game, lessons from the wasteland, how do I learn how to play this game, which I think is interesting. There's a there's like an interesting little editing that I put in my notes where it's the first thing, it's like the very beginning of this chapter where there's, I guess, I don't know, I'm confused. So okay, this actually, I have a question about Dementis's crew.
Right.
Does they show, I think the first shot from this chapter is them kind of like going around a big rock, and it's like a
Mhm.
huge, like there's so
Right.
many bikers.
Massive group
It's
of
the
people.
biggest
Yeah.
Yeah,
biker gang in fucking humanity's
yeah,
Yeah.
history.
yeah, it's the biggest biker gang ever, dude. But my
Yeah.
question is it just one gang, or is it like multiple different gangs that are like kind of like answering to
it's
Dementis?
it's multiple gangs. It's got to be. It's
Yeah.
got to be like a formation. You know, like in like the original Mad Max, he's like the toe cutter, and it's like
Hmm.
going into towns and basically rallying up people, and every town's going to have their own gang. So yeah, I think there's the Octoboss. He's got his own
Yes.
gang, and all these, and obviously we get that later where he kind of goes against Dementis when he takes over
Yeah.
the gas town. So like yeah,
Yeah.
it is like multiple gangs, and it kind of
Okay.
creates this feudal the power struggle sort of thing, which I guess would key into what happens later in the film. That it's this kind of clamoring
Yeah.
for power to get on top.
That
Right.
makes sense. That makes sense. That it's multiple gangs, because this section, and obviously like I knew that like they were kind of like communicating that with the Octoboss, but that confused me, where I was like, why wouldn't you answer that? I don't know, because like it's like Lord Dementis, and everybody's like, oh, hail
Yeah,
Dementis, like, and I'm
yeah.
like,
Well, it's
Yeah.
like a
and but
bureaucracy sort of thing. It's like there's
yeah,
levels of command, and there's different factions, and it's like if I'm here, I need to rule over someone. It's like you can't
mhm,
just rule over
Right.
like every like it seems like all the men in this film, all these men in power are like they want to rule over something. They want to command over something. So even the Octobos, who's under Dementis, is still like, well, I want to rule over, you know, a subsection of this, a group of this.
Yeah.
They answer to me. I'm even though I'm under you. It's sort of this like yeah, this clamoring for power is like a major thing that I see in this quite a lot.
Right.
but this yeah, so and that my question also goes into, because there was like these other bikers that were like, oh, why did you run away from me? You could have rode with Dementis if you didn't run. And then he makes
Yeah.
his kind of gang fight for the bikes that he had extra, that
Right.
were then going to be used to kill him. And we kind of get introduced to like this really minor character in Dementis's crew, where it's this girl with this really fucked up face.
Which is Chris Hemsworth's wife, which I thought was
Really?
a funny.
I do
Uh,
remember. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought that was a
She
funny
she
thing.
she
Like,
plays two roles.
She appears
in the
earlier
movie.
in the green place, but
Yeah.
it's a different
I
character.
I just thought it was funny. Be like, oh, you want to be in the movie, and then we're just like give her like this fucked up. You're like fuck your face up. But that's such a gnarly look when she gets like the blood dripping down, and like it's like in her eye, and it's like her mouth, like she has like crazy prosthetics.
I always imagine that because Chris Hemsworth went through hours of prosthetics. I imagine it's just
they're just like
Chris
sitting
Hemsworth and his wife are just sitting in the same makeup room together.
Like,
Being like,
I'm
let's
gonna
just
be in
hang
this
out.
chair. You might as well get some crazy shit done in your face.
Yeah, 100%.
That's crazy. I didn't know that was his wife. That's such a fun detail. The thing I wanted to bring up was it's so minor, but she shoots the guy that's sitting on the bike, and then she goes over and she kicks him off. And when she kicks him off, like the whole screen fucking shakes. It's such a small editing detail that I don't know, adds like
Which
kind of
well, they shake
yeah.
they shake like the cage that they're in. So there's like this moment of like she kicks him off, and then it like reverse shots to the cage that's getting shaken, and the camera is like it's like this whole like shaking thing going on. It's very.
I was gonna say something about George Miller and his optical ideas and his way he uses the camera and the way he uses edit as well. Like, because that shake thing, he brings that up a lot in Mad Max 2 in the commentary I noticed. He actually comments it quite a lot that like in post production they would create artificial shake in the film stock
in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. So like there's a sequence there where the gas town in that film, it's like a mini gas town, explodes, and the camera like it has like a shockwave effect where it like just like will just start shaking. That's all added afterwards. But I love all those little quirks that George Miller operates in. Like he does like a lot of speed ramping. He does all of that stuff. It's just like this really like enhancing things visually to create something really graphic and really cool. I don't know.
Yeah,
he adds punch to his stuff.
I was thinking about this while just watching Furiosa and rewatching Fury Road, and just like thinking about like the state of the modern blockbuster, right? And
of course.
There's a level of like, I guess, respect and just fascination and level of just like admiration for the work that he's done in these films, because not only are like they just like achievements, but they're levels of like the films themselves. Like there was a Mad Max cinematic language, right?
Yeah,
that does not exist in any other film. Because he is, there's obvious inspirations, right? I was watching like one video, Buster Keaton, and all sorts of like older films, right? There's always going to be that, right? There's always going to be that level of like existing in a context where things have been done before. But this film like has a like level of cinematic language that like you're in a Mad Max film, right? Where I feel like a lot of times where there's a modern sci-fi blockbuster or something, it's like, oh, this is just trying to be Star Wars, or this is just like a kind of like cheesy like rip-off, or like it just feels like a watered down, like Lucas is taking from X, Y, and Z, but now you're just taking from Lucas, so you're just a watered down version of all this stuff. Where George Miller seems like this is something, like this is a singular cohesive like language that he has created, and like that's like at the highest level of like, it could not be for you, it could be this, like that is like, you cannot deny that there is like some sort of like cinematic like language that he has created, that with the speed ramping and the way that the things are framed, and the I mean all of like everything that's going on here is so cohesive, and it becomes like a singular kind of idea that is really kind of brilliant.
And that comes from that first Mad Max film. It's such a low budget film. I think it's still the most profitable film ever made. Because it's like
it was made for like $100,000, and it made and it made like $50 million or something. Yeah, 100 million.
And so those ideas, those visual ideas, the speed ramping, the flash frames of like eyes that just go wide.
Well, they always have
and like
the
someone
fade
gets
to
punched.
Blacks. There's like
you get a
the
white
fade to blacks.
Yeah. Those ideas come from the limitations of the budget. Like we can't go 100 k's an hour down this road. We have to go 60 k's. All right, how are we going to speed this up? All right, we'll will overcrank or under. I can't remember.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
overcrank or undercrank? And speed ramp the footage and speed it up. And now George Miller has fucking hundreds of millions of dollars in his film. What is he still doing? He's still speed ramping because it's like that, as you said, it's created a visual language. It's like that's Mad Max. The Mad Max look is is born of limitations. Is born of these things, and that there's a thematic tie-in with Furiosa there, with working with what you've got and stuff like that, and making that something you're proud of who you are and stuff.
Yeah, even I mean, it goes to that, but it even like again to like where it started. It's like the whole kind of thematic thing of these movies are like, you know, starting or creating something from the wasteland of nothing to something.
Yeah, scrapping together different parts of cars to create a big war rig. It's just scrapping things together cheaply to make something fantastic.
About in one of the interviews he was saying like everything in the movie had like it's not something like they invented or something. It's like it had to be something from something. Like all the cars and stuff are like combinations of like previous existing things. It's all like you know hodgepodge like mix and match stuff.
He talks about how like art exists, like art but people want to make things beautiful still. So it's like you have the limitations of the wasteland, but you still want to make things beautiful. There's no reason they made that war rig chrome like that and have a fucking skull on the back and a spin.
And the guy playing the guitar.
It's fucking, but it's fucking beautiful. It's art, and they form it out of nothing, and they. Like, I remember Praetorian Jack, which is the character we haven't even touched on, but he comes in later.
We're not there yet, yeah.
That's like weird.
He's got a vest. He's got a vest which is made of a camelback water pump, which is something you wear on your back when you go out hiking. I don't know if they're in the US, but we have.
I have some. I have those. Yeah.
Camelbacks. Yeah. But his jacket is made out of a repurposed camelback backpack. It's really interesting. But yeah, it's like just repurposing shit. I love that kind of stuff. It's awesome.
I think that this Lessons from the Wasteland section of the film is very sad too, because we and this is we get the whole like we basically see like her whole childhood in this section. You know, we see her go from getting stolen to her getting traded off to fucking Immortan Joe, and her almost get molested by Immortan Joe's son, who
Rictus Erectus.
Rictus Erectus. Now, I very serious part of the movie, but his character is fucking crazy. Now, fellows that have seen Fury Road more recently, does he wear the baby stuff on his neck in Fury Road too?
Yep. Yeah, he's got like a baby bottle.
Yeah, I did not notice that until Fury Road.
Your first
introduction
to Fury Road, to Rictus Erectus, is the mother's milk pans out,
and he's drinking
the and then Immortan Joe gives it to him, and he goes moo. He's got like a baby brain, like that's his whole thing.
Yeah, well, in his room, because like he it's immediately like it's like, oh, this guy is especially interested in this little kid Furiosa, and it's like that's fucked up. And then there's these details where his brother like it's obvious that this is a thing because his brother like knows that he is interested in Furiosa without them ever communicating it, and then he comes in the middle of the night, steals her from the den of wives, right? And this is the part that really kind of that I think is especially like insane. He takes off her chastity belt, and then like the first thing he does after he takes her to his room is take off the chastity belt, and he throws, and the chastity belt is made out of fucking repurposed baby dolls, and there's just baby doll stuff all around his room. Oh, yeah, very crazy, very upsetting.
And that made its way into like a big blockbuster, and that's really like intense, like crazy, yeah.
But then Furiosa escapes because again she's the only fucking smart person in this movie. And she like cut off all of her hair, and she like she cut off all of her hair and made a wig because she knew that he was going to play with her hair.
She knew that he was going to do it.
Yeah.
Well, that sequence. I mean, we talked about this sequence like it being made into like making itself into a big blockbuster and all this stuff, and like. I mean, we like right away when you mentioned like Rictus and like there's the other like his brother's like Scrotus or something.
Yeah,
Well, that's the thing is, I love it, and it's not a reaction, but it's a great thing to showcase and point out
Scrabrus
to.
Scrotus.
Yeah. It's a great thing to point out to in comparison to, show this movie and then show like a Marvel movie, right? And they might name you can have Scrotus or Rictus in both movies, right? But it's the handling of these characters, right? Because the names and the way that they act and like even the concept of like the mother's milk in Mad Max the universe, right? There's never a moment where they're like, haha, like look how funny this guy's name is fucking Rictus or like so like there's never the point and be like, hey guys, this shit's fucking hilarious, right?
Yeah.
This is funny. Like he's got a fucking stupid name.
It's so
never
believable. You see Rictus Erectus and you're like, that's Rictus Erectus.
There's
like,
never a
that's what
moment
that
of
guy's
being like,
name is.
hey guys, this is supposed to be funny, laugh. There is like it's played 100% straight, but like there's fucking like funny shit in the movie. Like there's really funny stuff. But like I think so. Like I think the handling of like the really serious moments work, and I think if you like a 10 minutes later, we're like pointing and laughing at his name and like making it like this really like big joke, and like the way that they handle that, if that like flops, it'd be really weird to then go like immediately into this like very dark, serious topic.
Right.
Like the handling of the tones would be just really off, and so I think this is like a great subject case of just showing how to handle like comedy in this way, where I think like we've gotten really like referential and pointy with our jokes in the mod, like the big blockbusters. It's got to really like, hey, this is stupid, or like because there's never this level of like it's like this scared playing where it's like, you guys won't believe this is real, so I'm going to tell you it's not real. Or it's like, you won't believe this is serious, so I'm going to tell you it's not serious, so you can't even jump to that thing. It's like jumping the gun before they can even shoot. So I really admire the way that George Miller handles the comedy elements in this movie, and the way that they are written into the script, but also I guess directed and just get handled in the way in like a cautious way that doesn't interfere with anything, but also it's like really fucking funny stuff.
Yeah, the like the names specifically, I love. Mad Max names are like my favorite thing ever, and again, like they're humorous. Like Rictus Rectus is a fucking funny name, but again, it's like they wear the names as a badge of honor in the movies. Like they it's like they earn respect by having the most like what is it? Morton Joe sees one guy and he's like, "Who are you?" And he says, "They call me the organic mechanic." And it's like, it's like, they own that shit. They own that. And it's like the more fucked up and the more like weirdly sexual and like gross it is the more like you're fucking sick, bro. Like that's the culture.
The character becomes a cool character when they are like taking it with pride. If they are like, oh, my fucking stupid name, I'm like a loser, lame idiot, like I suck.
If he was like embarrassed to say organic mechanic, it's like immediately a worse.
It's immediately suck. But him, like obviously taking it as a
it's like who are you? And he like posts out his chest and like, well, I'm the organic mechanic, you see.
And they don't laugh at it. They don't wink at it. They don't.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, even if like that thing is like if he did that with the pride, right, and then they all laughed at him, and then he was like, "Oh, like that would have been fucking horrible, right?" Yeah. But he does it like the pride, and it's just like, okay, that's how it is, right?
Yeah,
and
that's just
we can use this guy; he's good. So... and then because I think of Spider-Man: No Way Home, right? There's a part of that movie where fucking he goes, "I'm Dr. Octopus," and they go, or like I'm like Otto Octopus, and but like in fucking Mad Max, if a guy was like, "I'm Dr. Octopus," they're like, "Yo, this guy's fucking
the coolest
sick.
fucking dude in the world."
This guy's awesome. Like
it's even like you can even compare it to just like the way that Doc Ock was used in the Raimi movies. It's like that's not how they like. It's like of course he's Doc Ock. Like that's just who he is. You know, that's just Doc Ock.
Yeah,
and
his name is it's actually Octavius. It's like it's not like
it's
but now it's got to be ironic. Now it's got to you got to point out that that's silly. But in Mad Max, it's like no, that's why it's awesome because they own their fucking stupid ass fucking names, because it's sick, and it like highlights this weird egotistical like a male masculine thing. Like, I'm this fucking awesome warlord guy, and my name is fucking Morton Joe. Like, it's fucking like, it's crazy. And then like, yeah, if it was Marvel, they go, your name's a Morton Joe. Why not like a Morton?
Yeah, what the fuck is a Morton? What the fuck?
Morton fucking Darren, bro. Like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway. So plot-wise, you were at Doug where Furiosa escapes and then transforms her identity.
Yeah, she disguises herself as like I don't know, like one of those guys that
it's like works on the cars.
The Black Thumbs,
or not even
well,
not even the car. That's right.
Yeah, and then she it's like another character moment where it's like, oh, she's like really brave and like headstrong and like jumps into things, where it's like, okay, oh fuck, we need to get this also, it's such a funny Mad Max detail that their car shop is up on that fucking mountain, so that they need to like hoist all these cars up like a mile up in the air.
Where else are you gonna make cars that will go to the gates of Valhalla than in the skies of heaven, bro?
It's also like their vantage point, keeping it away from I
know, it's so silly though, right?
It's a quick moment, but I just wanted to touch on, because like right before this happens, where she's like hiding from like Rictus, she like, because obviously you mentioned like she has like the hair thing, and like takes it out. There's this like scene where not only like her hair falls on this little branch,
time lapse,
and there's like this crazy, like it's really great time lapse, but also she's like holding on to this thing, and like he can't see her, and then like I don't know what you would call it, but like she like kind of just dissolves, and then it changes to the other like later. And I just think it's a kind of a really good moment to highlight. Like, there's like really great transitions in the film. It's
this
like
movie's edited so well.
Yeah, there's like the editing and but that's like such a great moment of the hair and the time lapse.
Yeah, I mean, that was
the kind of like the dissolve of her, and it's just a really good transition to show like the time has passed there without deliberately saying
and it's
like, hey,
like the
5
branch
months
is
later,
growing through the hair.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great little moment to kind of showcase that time has passed.
Yeah.
No, that's so good. And this moment where Furiosa, so they're like, oh fuck, okay, we need somebody to go down, like jump down onto this car that is unsecure and like a mile into the air, and like hoist it, like secure it. And it's like, you do it. And the guy's like, hey, I'm too big. And he's like, no, okay, you do it. And he's like, actually, no, you do it. And it's like this little fucking girl that looks like a boy that's right behind him.
That was the moment, like time passes, and for me, that was the moment where the AI caught up and was like, that is Anya Taylor-Joy. Like she's slowly becoming more and more like it as we had that little article, but that moment where she like pops out, it's like boom, Anya Taylor-Joy's eyes are like there, and I love that moment so much, because get the time passing, and I think it's just a great like kind of narrative beat where it's like, hey, you come do this, and he's like, whatever, and then like she's like, I'll do it, and she like pops fucking out of it. It's such a great moment.
Yeah,
so
and
good.
she goes down there, she fucking does it, and then she does like hey, all right, bring it up now, we're good.
Yeah.
And she gets the gloves, and the gloves that she wears
are huge.
Yeah, and but then like when we get to the next scene, and it's the transition into actual Anya Taylor-Joy, she's wearing the gloves, and they're like, oh, like this is like, that's just, she got that job in that moment, and that's the job she's had since however much time has passed until then.
And that's like what I talked about this one with Challengers, and that's like a different thing, because it's like back and forth. But that's like some stuff where it's like, you don't have to tell me X amount of years passed, right? You can show me that.
You can show
like show with the gloves, and with the time lapse of this thing, and with the the face changing ages and stuff. But there's never really like a sense of like 5 weeks have passed, X amount of weeks have passed. But there's always like, I know the time has passed, and that's all that matters. Like, that's all I need to know here. And it obviously it's a case by case, film by film basis, but I really love the way that like it never has to be like, I think the title cards work in a different way, and that's a different like whole scenario. But there's never has to be like, at 8 days to get later, or something like that.
I mean, not to mention in Fury Road, she has like the line where she says that like, they ask her like how long it's been since she like runs into them.
7,000 days.
She's like 7,000
But
days, and then she
they
says plus the
totally,
ones I don't remember.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh
doesn't matter.
yeah.
It's like a long time, long ass time,
long
dude.
fucking time.
No, that stuff's all great. And then that is the scene when we get Anya Taylor-Joy as entered the movie
Like an
after
hour
1
in.
hour.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Incredible. Also, just like the restraint. Yeah, I mean the narrative restraint. Yeah.
It's bold. I mean, it's like it's something that like I think it's funny. I was thinking about Dexter Fletcher when he's talking about he did directed Ghosted, and they're talking about like first streaming and like how you have to like catch them and you have to like they can't turn off, and like if this was like a streaming movie and like for like the studio would be like you can't like leave. Anya Taylor-Joy has to show up in the first 10 minutes, or like they're gonna click off or something. It's like but the like restraint and like the narrative, like I'm in my bag and I'm like I'm doing so, like this is such a good movie like that you're not even gonna like need Anya Taylor-Joy to show up for like an hour. Like this is just gonna be like this is gonna be a good movie, and then when Anya Taylor-Joy comes up, it's just gonna get better, right? It's just it's gonna be so good, and then it's like Anya Taylor-Joy shows up like cherry on top. Like it's only gonna get better from here. So I think like a weaker filmmaker or maybe like a scared filmmaker maybe would have that section shorter and like way shorter, or maybe cut back and forth, right? So you always have Anya.
Yeah, cutting back and forth. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is
but
I
think it pays off. I think it's
different.
Just totally different movie. But this is also the scene where they're making the war rig, and it's Praetorian Jack. We first meet Praetorian Jack. Praetorian Jack, who's played by I'm like Tom Burke. Not guy. I'm going to be honest, not on my radar. I haven't seen any of this guy's movies.
Oh really?
No. Well, I've seen Only God Forgives.
Wells in Mank.
I knew that.
Which
now.
is crazy.
I can see that as well.
I hear he's very good in The Souvenir. Which I wanted to watch for a while.
He's like the love interest in
The Souvenir. Also in The Wonder with Florence Pugh, which I liked a lot.
Also to note, Hideo Kojima like tweeted saying that like I saw Tom Burke and said you are Snake, you are Solid Snake, and I'm like that's crazy. That's
greater
awesome.
than an Oscar. That's better than an Oscar. It's being like it's like where it's like Hideo Kojima saw this guy on the set or like on the carpet, wherever he saw him, met him, right? And was like, oh yeah, this guy could play Solid Snake. Like, what the fuck? That's like that is a greater honor than an Oscar.
And said, "You're Snake." That's in his tweet, he said, "All I could see was Snake." That's all he said. Such a
great.
Crazy.
That's so badass. But no, Tom Burke's introduction, Praetorian Jack, is so sick because it's like, I mean, the dialogue in these Mad Max movies is so awesome because it's just like the characters are just saying what's happening, you know. It's because the dialogue, because it's the words don't matter, it's all about the images, right? So the characters, like, but what they're saying is so fucking sick because it's like, oh, is that Praetorian Jack? And then it cuts to Praetorian Jack, and it's like, man, I heard just, and then like, what is the thing of his character? It's like, I heard that he has done the most run on the furry roads, and he always brings back the booty. That's it. That's all you need to know about Praetorian Jack.
He's fucking rocks.
And
he
while
did
he's saying that,
Kessel Run in 12 parsecs, that kind of
and like Han Solo, right?
He's like he's basically Han Solo in this, like in a way, like he's like a Han Solo-esque character.
And Furiosa like locks eyes with immediately. Furiosa is again. Furiosa doesn't say fucking shit in this whole movie, but you know that Furiosa she's interested in Praetorian Jack. We don't know if it's like a sexual interest. We don't know if it's just like she thinks he's interesting, or maybe she's just clocking him as like, oh, maybe this guy's my way out. You know,
yeah, that's
we don't
what
know.
I think. Yeah,
but like we're clocking immediately where it's like she is interested in this guy in a way that she is not interested in anything else in this movie up to this point.
Yes, he's important to the story.
There's because he's an important figure in the story. So obviously, someone like the history man
would never bring him up, right? And like he's brought up in this way. It's like, hey, new character, he's fucking important.
He's
like,
important.
Listen up, kids. Like you gotta listen about this guy.
Yeah,
he's gonna be important.
I see it as like an admiration thing that she has for him almost. Like that's the way I saw it, because I feel like I was like worried it was going to go into some sort of like romantic direction, but I always saw it as like as an admiration, and because like I think every man in the wasteland that up until this point she's interacted with has been this sort of like power hungry warlord who's
Like
just
a
trying to
monster.
take her away, and then suddenly Praetorian Jack steps into the mix, and it's like he's different. Something's different, and I
He's like
can
a normal
you just,
dude.
and
He's like,
Yeah.
you can feel the aura of that, and I
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
thought because his role is the same thing as when she becomes Imperator Furiosa in obviously
Mhm.
Fury Road. So they have the same roles, and even Praetorian Jackie has his side friend. I can't remember his name, but he's an indigenous actor as well, and I've seen him before, and I recognized him immediately. But like, yeah, they have this very similar stoicism and way they uphold themselves in comparison to all the other characters. And I'm like, it feels like if you're a rig driver, if you drive a war rig, you have something that like no one else has, and I feel like uh, uh Furiosa can sense that. Furiosa can feel that almost. Like I didn't see it as romantic. I saw it as like, yeah, like this guy is
yeah, I
different.
don't think it's
Yeah,
either. But
yeah,
um,
exactly. Yeah. Anyway,
but that scene is so good when she notices Praetorian Jack because it's like immediately it's like, oh, she's in, like they're talking about him, we see him, she's interested, and it's framed so well too because like he gets into the car, right, and he disappears, and then the camera holds and he closes the door, and then that's the mirror, he's in the mirror. It's I like that, it's cool. But then whatever, like Furiosa notices her, then he gets in the car, she looks away, he starts the engine, and the two V8 engines fucking roar, and she goes like, and she just like immediately like her head like fucking whips back.
the
It's
coal
so
of the engine, the coal of the V8. It's like this like mythical thing. It's like so fucking awesome, eh?
yeah, no, that is so badass. And then it's like um she sets up for her escape, right? She's like putting the like they built the war rig, and now she's like, yeah, she's like, this is my way out, she puts the food that she's gonna take in the bottom, she like hoists up a fucking a little bike that she's gonna take, and she's like, yeah, and she is a stowaway, which is number 3, the third chapter is called Stowaway that we go into, which leads into what I would consider, I think that this is like the big set piece of the
Yeah,
movie,
that's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
fucking nuts.
right?
It's
The
just
chrome
crazy.
rig. Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah, and it's it's interesting because this is not like their first time using this in one of the movies, like using a big rig like this in one of the movies.
Yeah.
And yet it's
Mad Max
like
2, Fury Road. Yeah.
right, and it's still like just as exciting to use the same thing again, and it's like better even. Like it's
This one
like
feels like specifically very like we'll talk about the images of course, but it feels like graphic novel. Like that's what it feels like. All the frames
right.
feel like panels. Which is very different. And like I think I see people complaining about like, obviously they show Fury Road footage at the end and being like, oh, this is so much better. But I think it's just a different direction. I feel like, yeah, there's like some like grit and like center framing that's happening in Fury Road that's very deliberate, and there's a specific style that this is going for. And then Furiosa just has, as I said, has like a very, 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 very striking graphic image, like composition idea, where there's that iconic shot of like Furious on top of the war rig spinning around with that harpoon, and it's like, and it's like this really like it's like just the framing is very different from anything in Fury Road. Very wide lens and stuff like that, and also very before we get to obviously the CG is something that people have pointed out as well, and very different approach from Fury, because Fury Road is shot in Namibia, so it's shot in the desert, which obviously was a fucking grueling shoot. This movie, and I've heard this first-hand source from so my mate went to this premiere in Perth for Furiosa, and he talked to the guy who played the History Man. And the History Man himself,
oh shit,
as the storyteller of the set, on set experience, basically told my friend Luke, he said, yeah, we shot this in Broken Hill, which is where they shot Mad Max 2. So this is a very different setting. Broken Hill's not so much a desolate wasteland. There's a lot of mountainous regions there. I say it gets really cold in winter as well. So all of the backdrops, the History Man said, literally, it's all CG backdrops. It's not a desert. It's not a real desert.
You can tell.
You have elements like the road, but it has its own new language again. Like again, Miller takes these things that maybe people might consider a limitation, like can't shoot out in Namibia. We had a bad experience in Namibia, or this time of year is not good for Namibia. We're going to shoot in Broken Hill, and we're going to use the fact we're going for a digital image look and going for this really dynamic graphic image frames, and we're going to make that the look and the style. And I think that's and obviously Owen, you're going to go fucking off the wall about this because it is very, very you.
Well, it was interesting because I was thinking of what Kevin was saying about Fury Road being like the more accessible version of this kind of thing, and like him allowed to kind of be more like experimental, I guess, in a narrative sense, but also with these very like digital images. And I mean, for someone like George Miller, who is 79 years old, like he's gonna make the movie he wants to make. Like it's not like he's like here, like he's not trying to set up like another 3 decades of his career or anything. Like he's here to make the movie he wants to make. So if he really wanted to shoot it a certain way, he would have done it that way. I don't think that he was doing it out of like, this is how I have to do it. I like it's a clear decision, and I am all for it. I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Jim, you brought up how you felt like the Furiosa is very graphic novel. I feel like the thing that was coming out to me was, and it's similar, was it feels very anime, like anime specific. Which I think is interesting. And again, I swear to God, I actually felt that way while watching the movie, but then and it wasn't until afterwards that I found out about the canceled Furiosa anime that was in the works through HBO.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but before you go into that, George Miller also talked about Mad Max Fury Road before he went to production on that. He obviously struggling to get that into going. He was going to make that an animated film at some point in pre-production. So that totally is in.
Because it's coming off the success of Happy Feet. So
yeah, Happy Feet 2.
Happy Feet 2.
But that's what I forgot. I didn't mention that when I was talking about the Jurassic Park Gollum thing, but that's like when after you get to Bay Pig in the City, then you get to Gollum, and then it's like we can do these penguins, we can make these animated penguins, and then it's Fury Road. But I think it makes sense that he would originally think of that as an animated film, as like that was the kind of went from talking pigs to animated penguins to animated Fury Road. Or animated Mad Max.
Yeah, Furiosa.
Start with Mad Max, then you get to pigs, then you get to penguins, and then it's like we should obviously it would be animated, makes sense for the next step. But I'm glad we went a different.
But yeah, I remember what you said, Doug, in your review. You said this is something that feels like it's only possible through animation, but he does it in live action. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Or it's like, well, it's just like this big fucking. Some of the shit that happens is like, yeah, you don't put that stuff in movies. You don't do stuff like this in movies.
Yeah.
It's like the thing that like Soderbergh said. It's like, how is not everyone dead? Like the way that like the cars and stuff interact with each other. It's like only something you could do in animation, because if there were real people in these cars, they would all die. They would all be dead. Like there's no way. And it's like, it reminds me of like Speed Racer in a way, where it's like obviously car film, but that's all those stuff in that movie is very digital and animated. Like that's like CG cars. Like there's not when the stuff is like that are like going like crazy. Like it's not real people in the cars.
It's not realism. Yeah,
it's like exactly. It's that like car crazy stuff that can only happen in like Speed Racer, obviously originally an anime, and it's like building off that kind of language that only existed in the anime.
So this sequence, which we I think are in agreement, as like this is like the chief, like the big, like money set piece.
These are where the trailer shots come from.
There's a couple, but this is the biggest one.
I think that this is like this is the big action scene of the whole. I think if there was only one, and it's really awesome. It's fucking long as balls, bro. It's fucking long as shit in a good way, and this is where a lot of like the fun guys are in. Like Piss Boy is the guy in the
Piss
sequence.
Boy.
The what's his name? Quay. Uh, fuck
Oh,
the
Quaiden, yeah. I can't remember his
Yes,
surname,
yeah.
but Quaiden.
Yes, yeah. He's only in the sequence, and he's also really fun. And but yeah, it's very crazy. It's like they're doing it's Furiosa is the stowaway on the fucking
Yeah.
war rig, and they are getting then the war rig's getting attacked by the Octoboss.
Oh god, the octopus balloon
Yeah,
shit.
it's
That's
the
fucking
Octobot
crazy.
is trying to steal the war rig, and it's super fucking insane. But the thing that I think is interesting is because I don't know, like people talk about how the special effects in this movie are bad, but I don't know. God damn it, dude, I don't know what where the line is where what is happening in the scene. I don't know what is practical and what is like a computer asset. Like I have no like I literally cannot tell because guess what, bro? Those guys are actually paragliding or parasailing. That's a real stunt where those guys are in the air fucking parasailing,
Mm.
but then
Mhm.
the camera is moving in a way that fucking cameras cannot move. Like cameras physically cannot move.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
but then this is also like a digital camera in a digital space, maybe. Like I don't know what the fuck is going on. I have
Well,
no idea how they did
it
this.
that's just like when you're talking about cameras not being able to move, and I was thinking of, I don't know, it was another George. It was and I only think I watched maybe two George interviews, but there was so much packed into those, and he was talking about I guess the modern tech and now the use of game engines in previs,
Mm-hmm.
and how like you can basically make the movie virtually first, and then you can go out and do it and do the rest the actual shooting stuff. But the kind of mobility and the free flow nature that you can do in those spaces, and kind of the untapped or like unlimited potential of the way that this cameraless camera can kind of operate, and with like a true kind of visual genius at the helm, you can really like create some crazy stuff with that.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Like I don't know, it's always, you have these like the guy like guys like Jim Cameron and George Miller and stuff, and even Lucas, and just these kind of old masters using these new tech to like go buck wild.
Embracing that shit.
It's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the thing, embracing it, and not being like, you would expect like these old filmmakers to be really hard asses, and like I think of like Tarantino and being like, I shoot it
Mhm.
one way and the way that it has to be, and I never doing digital and stuff. But then you have like Ang Lee or someone being like, we're gonna do it 160 frames and we're gonna do it 3D and we're gonna go out like,
Yeah.
so that's always more interesting to me than being like I understand traditionalism in like a way, and like I think there's way more important ways to do that than be like, hey, I'm shooting it on 35 or and it's gonna be
Right.
like
Yeah.
I'm gonna do everything in camera, and it's like, I mean, time and place, but also like there's so much of cinema that's like untapped, right? Like it's such a new art form, and it almost feels like counterproductive to not embrace some of this tech that really is I don't know, it's just fascinating to see it showcased at like the highest level like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this whole set piece is like, I mean, it's so crazy. It's like literally everybody dies, and then Furiosa, like, so there's a scene where the pr- uh Praetorian Jax, like
Yeah.
kind of right hand man on the war rig, he's like about to die, like he's like hanging on by a thread, and the thread's about to snap, and he is like trying to fix the second engine, and he hands Furiosa the piping that is needed to fix the second engine, and she takes it, snap, then he dies, and now it's okay, it's on her now. She wasn't even supposed to be here. She's a stowaway, right, that trying to escape,
Mhm.
but she's fixing the second engine, she's helping out, and it's so crazy. When Jack is like, piss boy, radiator's broken, and the piss boy comes up, piss boy also fucking idiot character, but when the piss boy comes up and is like, okay, drink my piss engine, drink my piss, and but Furiosa like goes up towards the front of the engine, right? And she has this stick of dynamite that she kind of rescued from blowing up, and she's like, okay, I'm going to use this to get this guy. And then this boy takes it and it does this fucking stupid and throws it and kills himself for no reason.
Oh
And then
yeah, Valhalla. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and then Furiosa takes off of her hat made of leather and like picks up the radiator and puts the radiator back on, and it's the big reveal. It's like, oh, Jack has seen Furiosa. That is a woman. That is a beautiful woman. um, and now it's like now they're like their lives are in each other's hands now, and they go through it, and the crazy shit happens, and it all happens, and then at the very end, it's just the two of them have survived. Every single other person on this war rig has died, and it's just the two of them. And Furious is like, I'm still getting out of here. Like I was gonna escape today, I'm escaping. You're gonna give me the war rig. You're getting out. And Praetorian Jack is fucking so chill. He's the chillest fucking guy ever, bro. He is so in control of the situation. He like stops the war rig. Like she like slams her into the front seat. He opens the door, kicks her out of the door, and drives away. It's like, bro, he's so fucking sick. But then my favorite scene in the whole movie, I think, is we see Furiosa after that. She's alone on this road. She's like lost. She's like fuck. It's like such a fuck moment. And she doesn't know what to do, so she like just starts walking. And then Praetorian Jack comes out from the horizon and is like, "Where the fuck did you think you were going?"
Yeah.
And it's like the first time that she had been shown compassion this whole fucking time that she has been in the wasteland since her mom died. Praetorian Jack is the first person to ever show her compassion by being like, listen, like, I don't know what you were gonna do, but like that wasn't gonna work. And it's like, listen, you're just I can like work with me. I need a new crew. Work with me. I can show you the ways of road war. And it's like, and then we could figure it out. And it's like, oh, it makes me cry because she's crying. She's like, fuck, it's like, oh, it's so good. Anyways, so that's that scene.
Yeah, it's the only person in the film up until that point that really like just speaks to her, just level headed, just says, "Hey, this is how it is, and this is what's gonna happen." It becomes like a symbiotic relationship of
Yeah.
like the Praetorian and then the Imperator. It's like really, yeah, it's really fucking sick. I love it. I love this relationship.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's so good. And I also love there's because you talk about like the visual sense of this movie. There's a really consistent visual style where it's two characters are facing each other on the same plane, and then we get a shot from them from the side, and it's like a really wide really wide angle, but it's like the shot is really close, so they're both standing so fucking large, but the angle is so wide that they're both like kind of distorted. It's that happens a few times. It's really cool movie. Yeah, so that was the stowaway. And
Yeah.
where's my notes?
What's your long list?
Um yeah. Yeah, and then we get like Homeward, which is kind of like when we really start to get into the meat of the movie. Is a chapter 4 Homeward, um, which this starts off with a. I think it might be like a dream sequence is what it's supposed to be, but it's a series of like composite shots where it's like the stars, and we see
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
like Dementis, and then we see on Anya Furiosa's eye with like the galaxy and Dementis, and then like it's all fading out into other things, and there's a voiceover and it is not the history maker that says this. I think it's her mom or like the woman. Maybe it says to her mom at the beginning of the movie where it says the stars be with you, and then and then it's like, oh, and then it kind of fades into Furiosa having a nightmare, and she wakes up, and uh Praetorian Jack's there, and it's kind of like, again, it's like this is like he's the only person there for her, it's nobody else. It's I don't know, it's interesting. Oh, and then we kind of go into immediately into another action sequence where this is interesting because I think that this is like where it's not all digital, because I talk about how like the camera's moving in impossible ways during like ways that I can like I don't understand what's really happening on the set during the big like Warwick sequence. But now this was they're escaping, where like Jack is like, okay, like you can go, we're gonna after this we're gonna do this run, but then you and me, we're gonna escape while the war boys drive the rig back. And
Yeah.
so they're on their way to the bullet farm. And it's interesting because on Furiosa is in the car, and there's like handheld immediately. They're kind of like shifting the language a little bit, where there's handheld in the car, like someone's in the backseat holding the camera. And then it's like, oh, there's handheld in the war rig. Somebody's in the backseat of the war rig holding the camera, and it's like, oh, something's off, right? And then action sequence, fucking bullet farm is under the control of goddamn Dementis, and again, we're on the ground, shooting fucking bullets, and it's handheld. Somebody is in the camera, like running around, following Praetorian Jack, and it's all like this whole sequence is really fucking sick. And another narrative decision where it's like, okay, Praetorian Jack has to make a decision, and he decides that he's not going to leave right now. He decides that he's going to basically like sacrifice himself. Like he knows that he's going to die if he does this. This is crazy. Where he's going to like try and like cripple the bullet farm. Why does he do that? Why does he do that?
I don't know, but
He
like,
loves.
it's weird that like I think you see self-sacrifice in these movies. Can you guys hear me? Sorry. Oh,
Yeah,
Yes,
you're
you cut out for a second.
oh, okay.
Right.
I'm getting like weird, like distortion. Okay. Where was I going? Oh no. You guys are good.
self-sacrifice.
Okay, we lost it. Never mind. We lost
Oh,
it.
maybe we're not good now.
Hello.
Oh Jesus.
Hello. Oh no.
Hello.
Hello?
Mark this, guys. Oh
Oh,
shit.
Oh no, we made it so far.
this is gonna be the most editing Kevin has ever to do.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
It's really
are we
not
back?
that bad. This is
We're
only
back,
the third time I've marked down something that I have to edit.
Can you hear us? We've been
Cool,
able to
that's
hear
good.
you.
I can hear you guys. Yeah, we're good.
What's cool? Okay.
Where was I?
Self-sacrifice.
Oh yeah. Like I think like there is like an important sequence of showing the war boys and their dedication to the Immortan Joe and their sense of self-sacrifice in the name of like ascending to Valhalla, and then you get this sort of different thing with Praetorian Jack, who's like willing to sacrifice himself for just another person, just to get out or to make a difference, to make a change, a literal change in the world, where it's like let's fuck up this gas town and get the fuck out of here. So I think it's just like a contrast between the war boy's sense of self-sacrifice and someone like a Praetorian Jack, this heroic character.
He's also like kind of accepted this world that he's trapped in, where like people like the whole like the whole big theme of one of the whole big themes of the movie is like the hope and and that essentially like they kind of talk about how there's like three places. There's like it's like the bullet farm and the
Gas town and the
gas
Citadel.
town and then the Citadel, and it's like you could only go to these places and like you're kind of stuck here, and like he's kind of accepted that like that is the reality that he's stuck in, and he just has to like do this thing that he's doing. Yeah, it's like and he like is probably smart enough to recognize that, as opposed to just be like somebody who like listens to orders and like sacrifices himself that way. But like maybe he sees this as a more worthy sacrifice, in the sense that he sees somebody who could actually like get out of that mold that he is just kind of like trapped in,
who could break that status quo that he
Right.
sort of finds himself stuck in. Someone who could surpass him. I think he sees Furiosa as his successor. I think that's the relationship that sort of forms there. He sees that she's someone that can break the mold here, someone that can escape this. It's almost like it builds that mythology in a way. So like he predetermines her fate in a way. Again, so the history man, it's the storytelling, it's all that stuff, self-sacrifice. It's epic storytelling.
And this is like the second biggest action scene outside of the one that we were talking about. I mean, this is also, there's a lot of stuff here well.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on here. It's very crazy. It's interesting because so Jack, when he makes a decision to not leave right now, with Furiosa and stay and fight at the bullet farm alone with the war rig. He signals with the flare, the green flare, and Furiosa sees that, and she's upset, or like something's going on, and she's like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave, and she starts leaving, and then we get that amazing shot of her, like it's a close up of the windshield, and it's her like looking down and thinking and thinking, and the wheels are fucking turning, and she looks up and looks at the camera, and then she goes back, and she's it's awesome, and she's with the sniper providing cover fire, and they're she's fucking triggered, and she sees the Dementis. And it's, I don't know, bro, this is such like spectacle at the highest level, because there's crazy like stuff that's actually happening where things are falling, and the fucking the big like
Things are blowing up.
Oh, I love
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Might be. I mean, this is like, we're talking set pieces. This is one of the best. I just
Yeah.
It reminds me of like, it's like almost like very video gamey in terms of like, it's like this like singular like area, which is like it's like a map, and it feels like it's like very laid out
the
and
mission
calculated.
area.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's a sequence later where Hemsworth is like holding on, and the bullets are like falling over him, and it's like the
Right.
very
Cool
like,
visual,
digital
cool visual.
bullets. And I don't know, I love that whole sequence is so great.
It's so
from
fun.
like a position of like, Jack is here, Furiosa's here, Hemsworth is here, and just like, it's very,
You get a geography of the land.
well, the way to, that whole sequence is shot. You have a total understanding of where everything is, and the language of the area, and it's very. I mean, in terms of like set piece direction, it's very well done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
no, that's a
emotional
good
stakes are
point.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. The geography is so specific and like communicated so well. Where like where everybody is, what everybody's doing.
Because it's so tense. It's such a, it's like goes so fast. Everything's happening so fast, but the kind of direction is so calculated that we understand everything. Like it's coming at us so fastly, but it's, in a way, it's simple, but it's calculated, and it's done really well that we understand it.
And I think like maybe one of the craziest, when the everything is falling towards at the end of this fucking action sequence, when everything's fucking falling, and it's like, holy Jesus Christ, like the tower's falling over, and the crane is falling over, and the what's it called, the war rig is like, they're gonna lose the war rig, and he has to like climb out of the war rig while it's falling, and Furiosa is on the motorbike with the grappling hook, and she has to like get there in time and throw it, and he has
Like
to
an
grab
Indiana
onto
Jones
it.
ass thing.
Yeah, Indiana Jones, like it was like, this is like a Fast and Furious, like like how like huge this fucking like crazy crazy that moment is. I'm like, oh my god, that's insane. And this kind of leads into I think the climax of the film, probably is the beginning of the climax of the film.
Yeah, long climax of the
Very long
film.
climax.
Yeah,
which is just the fifth chapter. Really, is just the whole,
where the Furiosa and Jack are like, they did it, and it's like, oh my god, and they survived somehow, and now they're in the car, and it's like they're going to the green place. Now that's the thing. It's like Furiosa and Jack together are leaving. They're escaping the wasteland. They're gonna make their own way and get out of this hell. But then, fucking Dementis. It's, well, actually, okay, before even Dementis starts chasing them, right? Such a amazing character detail, and a part of like why Anya Taylor-Joy's performance is so good in this movie is that she's crying. She's crying. And it's like, why is she crying? Why would her character be crying in this moment? She's crying because she's like, so like, it's like overwhelmed with like the fact that like it's happening. It's been 15 years, and now it's happening right now. She's leaving. She's actually leaving, and she's not even doing it alone. It's like, it's like such an incredibly powerful moment in the movie for her character that this is happening. But then Dementis is like, no. Why? This is like one of those things where like Dementis is so stupid. It does not make any sense for him to. It's like, it is actual like pig-headed like bull rush like shit for him to chase down these two people, because it doesn't really make any sense. It's just two people, and yeah, they fucked up his stuff. But guess what? That was the bullet farm. He lives in
Yep.
Gastown. Yeah, you're trying to take over the Bullet Farm, and it's like, oh my god, they ruined Bullet Farm the second we took it over. Dude. It's like, okay. It's not like you were running
And
Bullet Farm for a year and they did that. It was like
yeah,
you cut those first day out and they did it. It's like, go back then. I don't know. It's so, but
I
like that's
felt
just,
such a
yeah.
weight. Oh, okay. So who's gonna talk first?
No, talk.
Okay. So I felt such a weight because I realized we were doing the journey to the green place, or we were starting that journey. I felt such a massive weight in that because we've seen that journey in Fury Road. We've seen what that journey is, and we see the tasks that it is, and we're like, we know what she knows that lies ahead, sort of thing, because we see it in the follow-up Fury Road. And then it also enhances that film because you understand in a way why she looks at Max a certain way in those moments, because she sees Praetorian Jack a chance at someone who's going to share that journey with her and work with her. It like kind of enhances that film in a way. It makes it sort of beautiful in a way that like she puts her trust in someone because of this relationship that she's formed with Praetorian Jack. She sees that similar like light in Max, someone who is so scarred and someone that is going through his own journey in that film. But yeah, like it just builds that entire thing, and yeah, like I just felt that weight, like in anticipation for this. Like, oh, we're doing the Fury Road. We're going historic in the Fury Road right now. What the fuck? And yeah, obviously it gets stopped in its tracks by the Mentis, which is like that fucking rips your heart out. Like it's insane.
Yeah, it's Dementis. He's hell-bent on this monster truck. He tracks them down, and again, it's like out of like just emotion. It's a total like it's a really like a dumb emotional thing that Dementis is doing, and we know that after watching the whole movie that this is really like this was Dementis's fatal mistake, because like this leads to Dementis's demise, is him deciding to track them down and do this.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's like Furiosa loses her arm. And they string up and they torture they string up Furiosa on her like broken arm on the
there's
back
this
of her
scene
monster
where
truck.
earlier where like her arm gets like fucking like there's the
Wedged between the
car,
monster truck,
Yeah.
which is like they kind of like almost they tease at her like, because if you've seen Fury Road, like her arm, like she loses her arm, so they're kind of they're teasing that constantly like during the movie, is like she's going to lose this part of her body.
That's why this film is enhanced by the fact that Fury Road came first as well.
Yeah. But when it finally happens, it's like, because it's like they could have done it in like the dumbest way like a billion times, but it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding the way that it actually happens and like what it means for, I guess, the narrative and like these characters.
Yeah, and that oh god, it's so good, that shot where they string up. It's such a small detail where or the Mentis is, they're like, okay, no, we're gonna have her watch this guy that she obviously loves get tortured, right? So we're gonna string her up, and the guy like is gonna string up her good arm, and then Dementis just like looks at him and he's like, have you lost your edge? And it's like such a small, like just one piece of dialogue that's so small, and it's like, whoa, like he's like really intense. And then they string up her bad arm, and then Dementis goes up to the front, and like the whole like day shifts to evening, or to the dawn shifts to dusk. It shifts to dusk, and his facial expression is like the same, where it's like he doesn't know what to do. He's like so fucking, he's just thinking about it, and he's like, how the fuck do I get the Citadel now? Like, and he's like, whatever, we're going home now. It's been hours, presumably. And one of the best shots in the whole movie is her arm just hanging there.
It's like this like Evil Dead, like Carrie, like fucking like straight out of a horror movie thing. And I don't know, is it earlier? I'm just thinking about this sequence. Is it earlier? I think it has to be earlier, right? Where she's like under the sand and she like claws out.
That's during the Bullet Farm.
That's during the Bullet Farm thing.
Because I was thinking of like that as such like a. I mean, it's like it's constantly like playing with her arms and stuff, and like it's like gonna happen, but the the imagery and the kind of that's the setup for the kind of that shot to be like just the hand hanging is so. I don't know. I think it was obviously something that would have to happen. Like she has to lose her arm, or I mean, maybe she doesn't. Like maybe it's something happens in between.
Yeah, maybe
these
it's in
movies,
the next movie.
but it
Yeah.
like come on,
Yeah.
like it's something that kind of has to happen if you're doing
It's
like
a looming
Furiosa the movie.
inevitability in the film. Yeah.
So I think like the build up in the way that it's so I think it works so well, and I think it's something that I think could easily have been kind of done poorly, and I all of the it was very like methodically built up and stuff like that. And that one shot is just it's great.
That one shot leads into her another fucking incredible shot where it's her riding the motorcycle or the dirt bike or whatever, backlit by the sun setting, and it's like this like and she's already covered in fucking mud and shit and blood.
Yeah,
But then also at the backlit, it's like she's so dark with just her eyes, like white eyes peering through, and it's like so intense. And I like too where she is able to get up the mountain on the bike where nobody
all
like
the
where
other guys are like,
and they already established that you can't get up the mountain with the bike, but she is able to. And then but also this isn't a criticism, I think it's cool. She's very obviously an entirely CG asset when she's driving the motorbike on the mountain. Like that is not a human being. But I think that kind of like that goes into like the overall thing where it's like, again, like Furiosa it's a story about a woman that is so furious, or like she was able to ride up the mountain out of where nobody else could.
She's Superman in a way, she's
and and then she's walking. She abandons the dirt bike, is walking, and then there's this one of the more important shots in the movie, in certain ways, where we get a little cameo from Max Bradansky.
This is what I want to talk about. Yeah. I want to know what you think about this, Doug, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a bit dumb. Like, and people behind me, those guys behind me who are huge Mad Max fans, they were like, before they got into the cinema, they were like quoting it. They were like, he's a raging feral. Like, they would quote like all the other films. I was like, these guys are big fans. These are huge fans here. And then, like that moment, they were like applauded. They were like fist pumping, and I was like, "Oh, this is a bit dumb." But also, I kind of leaned forward in my seat. I was like, "Yo, that's Max." What is your take on this? Because I am not too sure how I feel about it.
Well, what do Owen and Doug? Oh, sorry. What do Kevin and Doug?
What does Kevin and Doug think?
What does Owen and Kevin? Jesus Christ! Why did I do that twice? Twice! I did it twice. What does Kevin and Owen think about it?
First, yeah.
Kevin, come on.
I don't even know what you're talking about, if I'm being honest.
What? Well, you don't know what you're
Max
talking about.
Cameo.
Max is in the movie.
He's in the movie, yeah.
Did
you see the interceptor and the guy standing on the?
I'm just like, can you
Tom Hardy comes out and he's like, "Hey, it's me, Max."
No, it's a back
Why
shot.
is this just not in my head?
It's Tom Hardy back shot in the.
It's
okay.
I mean,
I do.
Hardy,
Yeah. Okay. I just like came back to my. Listen, I watch movies and I like forget 90% of what happened. That's why I needed Doug to go through the whole plot because I watched the movie 6 times.
Thank you, Doug.
So like everything comes back to me as you guys explain it.
She's
No.
going,
Yes.
And then it like goes up, and then it's like his car and.
Right.
Yeah,
back shots.
No. I do remember that. I don't know why that scene was just like erased from my memory, and you guys were talking about it, and I was like, "What the fuck are they?" Because I remember you guys like tweeted about it as well. You were like, because there's like a point I saw Nalbis and Doug that have like a Twitter exchange where like you guys were talking about it, and Doug was like, "This is like a stupid," or Nalbis said it was a stupid thing, and then like you were like,
I said it was dumb,
I was like, I know they're gonna bring this up on the podcast, but I was like, I imagine they're referencing like the first trilogy, which I haven't watched, so I'm like, I don't really know what they're talking about, and I don't know why that whole like scene just
fucking Mel Gibson is like in the background.
I guess the fact
what is your take on this, Doug? Then, because I mean, obviously they fucking forgot.
No, I saw it.
Yeah,
but I want to hear what Kevin thought.
No, I guess it's slipping my mind. Just kind of like says everything. I mean, it doesn't mean that much to me, apparently.
Okay.
It's so funny. Owen, what did you think?
Marvel cameo.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because I was the scene happens right, and it's a really I love the composition of that shot, and you have Max up top. He's like, I don't know, he's drinking or eating something, and
he's eating dog food.
It's like the
that's
from Mad Max. It's like the opening shot to Fury Road, basically.
Okay. So that he's doing that, and then and Furiosa's going, and then immediately like it fades to black, and then Furiosa gets dragged. It starts getting dragged by like the
maggots,
people, by the people in
like,
the
the
Citadel.
maggot farmer.
And originally, I was confused because I was like, "Wait, what the fuck?" Because like it immediately you're shown Max, and then it's like she's being saved by someone. Like, what the fuck is Tom Hardy about to just start like helping her? I was like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, that's why I think it's dumb.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, no, it's the maggot people. But I like
the
I don't,
shots infer that Max saved her,
exactly.
and I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't
guess.
But I think it's fun.
I think it's fun. It's fun, right?
It doesn't break the film. I just thought, I was like, but Max goes on that journey of caring in Fury Road. I'm like, Max wouldn't care, and I'm like, it might just be that like that wasn't intended. It wasn't in the intention that Max saved it. He just was watching and didn't give a shit. But it kind of one shot after that implies it. But
I don't assume in the film that he does save her, but the way that the scenes are like added and like edited together, it's like, wait, what the fuck? It's like Tom Hardy is about to appear in this movie. So I was like, I did not think that was gonna happen, but that's not what happens. It is almost like a little like, it's like, gotcha, fucking shit. But I don't know. I think it was fun. It was like a little, cameos are cool when I like them, you know?
Yes. Cameos are cool when I like them.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was like, I think also, it wasn't egregious where it was like,
no.
People like
Kevin didn't even remember it.
Yeah. Now I remember it completely.
An average viewer is not gonna like know. Like it's just like a guy. Like it's at the shot, the way it's framed and like the composition of the shot. It's like that's just a guy on the hill, right? And if you know, you know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have a big issue with it. I thought it was fun. I think it would have been like if like Tom Hardy like he was like if it got like, it would have been annoying and like marvelly to me if we saw Tom Hardy like eating the dog food, and like it was like the way that it was composed was like clearly Tom Hardy, clearly a cameo, and like
I'm gonna say that was clearly not Tom Hardy.
Exactly.
No, it's not. He's
not
got
Tom
a fucking
Hardy.
mullet or some shit.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why it wasn't egregious and like annoying and dumb to me, because I think like the way that it was framed and handled, I do think it was like the way that it is like the whole saving her was confusing in the moment. But
the reason it ruins it for me is just the immersion of this is the history man telling the story. Why would the history man fucking be like, and Mad Max was on the fucking hill? Like, I just like it breaks that immersion of the storytelling. I
get that.
That's the only reason. It's not egregious. My partner was watching it and she didn't even know fucking what was going on. Exactly. Like so it doesn't get in your way. But I feel like for me, as someone who was watching it as like, this is the history man telling the story, why would he include the fact that like there's a Max cameo? That's my only thing.
He loves cameos, right? That's something.
Fisherman's like, dude, I love Max. He's sick.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
Doug, what do you
think?
I like it. Because my thing is like, I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's fun. I think it's a great shot. Seeing
that's really it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a really great shot, and you see like, because it's Max is up there eating his dog food, and Furiosa is like falling, like she's like passing out from exhaustion down there. And I guess like the reason why I went into this movie, I'm totally honest, I went into this movie expecting a Mad Max cameo. Like I thought that I expected Max to be in the movie at some point. Like it's funny in the.
Like straight up, like full on Tom Hardy.
Mm-hmm. I thought that Tom Hardy was going to be in the movie. Yeah, I didn't think it was going to he was going to have a speaking role, but I thought that he was going to be like I thought that Tom Hardy was going to be in one of the scenes. Yeah.
What if it was like Mel Gibson up there?
That would be ridiculous. I would hate that.
He just is a fucking slur. He just says
like
some crazy
pans.
shit.
It pans and it's like AI, Mel Gibson, Tom Hardy like mixed together. It's like
I'd hate that because
and then, like,
that would also
half-
imply it's like they're the same interpretation where they're different
Yeah,
interpretations
yeah.
of the character.
and then like Babe and Happy Feet are up there, and like
And Babe and Happy Feet are up there.
it's like
Oh my god,
and
yeah.
the Witches of Bushwick are up there too. It's like all
yeah.
no,
And
yeah, I don't know. I like the
Susan
shot. I don't
Susan Sarandon is up there, and it's like
but also in the
Let's
shot
not dwell
it's
on
like
it too much, yeah.
yeah. No, yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I liked it because also like I didn't have the thing where like I thought that Tom Hardy or that Mad Max was saving her because it's like well, I mean, I know Max's characteristics and I know that like he wouldn't do that, but also
Yeah.
because like in the shot he like looks so unbothered, you know that
yeah.
yeah. But
Well,
anyway,
that's why it was confusing, because he is so unbothered, but then immediately it cuts to someone like because they're dragging Furiosa and you don't see who it is, so it's like I can only infer that is the last guy you just showed me. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, the very next shot we see it's again it's our second look from either of these movies at like the layman, like the normal people that live in the Citadel, and it's like this woman who is I guess like a maggot farmer for the maggot mash, where she has like the fresh dead people where she intentionally wants maggots to like grow there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Does not seem like a fun place to be. I'm gonna be honest. Does not.
Yeah, she's like, stay here, it's nice.
Yeah, she's like, stay here,
feet
you'll find
hanging.
peace.
There's like feet hanging and shit.
No?
No, I'm good, bro.
Well, there's immediately you get the cut to Furiosa's arm, and it's like there's just all these maggots like in her, like yeah, shit's gnarly.
As bad. But then Furiosa starts talking. Like, I guess she started talking like in the previous scene, but she starts yapping it up. She's like, she goes up to the guy and she's like, I'm Praetorian, yeah, I'm Praetorian Furiosa. And this in the trailer that little bit is edited to where it's just I'm Furiosa in the trailer. She never says that.
Furiosa.
Yeah, but I'm in Praetorian Furiosa, and she goes up and she's basically like, you fucking idiots, you fucking dumbass little clown fucking idiots. He's not a gas town, you fucking babies. And also she's so beautiful in this section of the film. No, it's like, and like I like, and obviously Anna Taylor-Joy, one of the most beautiful people on the planet, but it's like specifically the way that she's photographed and presented in this film, it's like they intentionally made her more beautiful than she has been up to this point. I don't know why. I don't understand the intention there, but
yeah,
it feels so specific.
She finally gets like cleaned off. She's like really dirty, and like you just saw like the maggots in her arm, and they finally like give her a good cleaning, and then it's like the like ta-da, like she's beautiful.
And I love the history man comes back in, and he's talking about how they're all of the wars that have ever happened in the world, and he's talking about, and he's just naming a bunch of fake wars.
yeah.
And it's so badass. And then he says, and then there was the 40-day wasteland war, and we got another set of like a bunch of just like composite images coming in and out of each other, and it's so badass, bro.
Yeah, the fucking Duff Warrior as well. It's so fucking cool.
It's so fucking dope. It's so dope. And the guy with the guitar comes in.
Yeah, the Duff Warrior.
Yeah. No, yes, that's what you said. Yeah, it's so fucking sick.
Like I love this thing because you mentioned this earlier, and this sort of I think plays into a little bit like as this sort of chapter goes along. Because you talked about Furiosa being an observer of these events, but it's almost like everything that happens from here, Furiosa like is almost just in the backdrop to all of these fucking like to these like the men just kind of killing each other. Like it's almost like she's not even trying to kill them at this point. They're just doing it themselves. And that's what I find like really, really cool about this. And like as we head towards the end as well, it's almost like she's like following Dementus to his doom. Essentially, he's gonna die regardless. But then he's just like she's just gonna fuck him up regardless. Yeah, I don't know. I like that she's just watching them kill each other in a way.
Yeah, no, it's so like her intentions are different from everyone else's because
Yeah.
her intentions are to enact her vengeance, her personal vengeance on Dementis, where everybody else is like, whatever
Killing
the fuck.
themselves. They're killing each
Yeah,
other.
and she oh man, her cutting her hair and then the reveal of I need a vehicle. We see the back of her head, and then the guy shows her that fucked up like what the fuck, like rickety ass like
It's like my
go-kart.
Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
and
He seems
and
like
then
he reminds me of a character from the Mad Max game as well. I don't know if you guys have played it, but there's a
no,
character in that called I think he's like called Igor or something like that. He's like a guy that like sticks with you, who's sort of like this like little rascally little guy who's like, I made you the car, Max, and he's like, yeah, he like sort of is like a weird guy who's obsessed with building cars for you. That guy reminded me of that character.
Yeah, I went to
okay,
high school with a couple of those.
you just brought up the Mad Max game, which I think is I want to like throw a little ball out there for a second. So the Mad Max game was based off of notes from George Miller for another Mad
Mhm.
Max movie.
Yeah.
And in that game they reference Dementis. He's not in the game, but like Dementis
Oh
is
wow.
brought up in the game. Um and there's a theory that I saw on Twitter that listen. I think it's good though. I think it's an
Now
interesting.
he's doing Twitter research for the
I think that it's like an interesting little like tidbit where this guy I forgot. He's like one of like the film Twitter guys. I forgot his account's name, but he was talking about how he thinks that in if they were to make the next Mad Max movie, which would be Tom Hardy would come back to play Max, and it would be the events leading up to Fury Road. Um, he was saying that he would theorize that it would reveal that the girl that is in like the flashes in Fury Road, he was saying that he thinks that was Dementis's daughter. That's what the movie would be revealing.
Okay.
Would be really interesting. We're never seeing that movie. That movie's never getting made, but that would be really interesting. Yeah.
George Miller will live forever, all right? Like, it's not he's 79 and he's still
Yeah, he's not going to
spry
get
young
financing
chicken.
forever though.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, so yeah, but then this is really the home stretch when this movie kind of enters a new ethereal level of how good a movie can be. Because we see it's the reveal of her bald. She takes the car down. She like it's like, oh, they need the wheel for this his brother's car, his son's car. That's not, which one is it?
Scrotus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Scrotus.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, they're fucking dumb and like while they're like arguing about like whether or not they're both gonna go or only one of them's gonna go, she just like takes the car. Like this literally says nothing. This whole sequence, and she just gets in the car. Such a badass fucking shot. That's
She watches
it's in the
men
trailer.
fight and argue and just fucking like that's the whole thing. It's like everyone's just got their own shit, and then she just goes and fucking takes off.
I love the scene, but not only that she's like driving away, but I love the bit of Rictus chasing after her like he has a chance. And it's like a classic like example of him just being a fucking idiot, and he's like, she's obviously like he's never gonna catch up to her, but him just like chasing off, like, you know, it's just a funny little bit of him just being like stupid.
And Scrotus looks in like awe. He's so like
Yeah.
enamored by what the fuck just happened, like shocked.
Yeah.
He's like, he can't even like, he's not even angry. He's just like, what the fuck
What
just
does
happened?
the history man
Yeah.
say? And what does the history
and
man
then
say?
and then he says, what was that? And the history man says, just like as like just cool, he just like lays this out there as like as a slow ball. He says, that is the darkest of angels, the fifth rider of the apocalypse. That's like word for word.
He
Exactly
says
what
it in his fucking Australian accent.
Yeah.
The darkest of angels, the fifth rider of the apocalypse, and it's like fuck.
And then and then like this happens like fucking 5 times through the movie. We didn't talk about the score at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes like a character just says something and then the score goes like boom, like kind of like
a revving engine. Like that's the choir is the V8 engines.
Yeah, it happens like 8 times throughout the movie. But yeah, in that moment it's so sick because he says that and then it happens again where it's like vroom, in the fucking in the score. And now we have the final bit of the movie where it's Furiosa chasing after Dementis in this car. And this is what there's a section in this that the moment in this that really reminds me personally of a Speed Racer, where her black car kind of like goes up on the hill and it like crashes out on the other side, and like it's like obviously entirely CG. That's like you can't do that in real life. But I'm like, that looks like the car's moving how the car moves in Speed Racer, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
so
Well,
fucking sick.
I was yeah, I was thinking that when I was watching it today because there's this whole I don't know what race or whatever it is in Speed Racer, but this whole like sand map that they do in Speed Racer, and it's exactly because they're like going on the dunes and stuff. It's exactly like that. Yeah, that's a great bit.
You say
Yeah,
she's like she's chasing Dementor. I don't think she's really chasing. She's just like kind of like stalking him because like
Mm.
he's going to his doom. Like he's gonna die out in the desert regardless if she goes after him. So she's just kind of just there stalking his like her prey in a way. She could go immediately and just fucking clock him in the head, but she chooses not to. She's like very very meticulous about her approach to this. It's really really fucking awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, I love the bit, and it's like it's a very simple, and it seems like the obvious kind of decision to do, but I just think like sometimes the obvious choice is the right choice, and it works perfectly. And it's like she chases. It's hit. Dementus has a couple guys with him, right?
Mhm.
And you have to like obviously he would, right? He wouldn't just like disappear by himself. He's got thousands of people. He's obviously gonna like leave with some protection. So the way that they like he's like, oh fuck, like she's coming. We gotta split up. Like if there's any chance that I don't get caught by Furiosa, like we have to split up and we have to like it makes it look like I'm going a bunch of different ways. And I
Yeah,
just really like the way that Furiosa looks, she goes, okay, one of them's going this way, I'm going to go this way. And then it's like, you see how this is not Dementus. And then you go to the next one. It's like, oh, this is not Dementus. And then you finally get to him. But there's like little sequences with each one of his like guys. And it's like, you see how like they, hid the way that, could be Dementus, but then it's revealed that it's not. And it's just like a very calculated and smart way to write that bit, and it just stood out to me as like a really well made sequence there. And I mean, you have the one eye, I'm forgetting that one eyed guy's name, but he gets like the guys get him, and there's the whole bit where that's how she gets the cape.
yeah.
Is the one of the other guys
Mhm.
has it? They like switch vehicles, and he like falls into
Dementor's
the
cape,
pit.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah. It's a good little sequence that leads. That could have just been like straight. You could have just had like her following him, and then they like she finds him. Like it could have been that simple. But I really like the kind of structure of that sequence.
I love the detail with Dementus's cape, where it is a white cape that is dyed red from the earlier in the film when they find the war boy and then they shoot off the thing right like the
Mhm.
flare like right in front of
Mhm.
them. Then the cape is dyed red, and but at the end of the film when Furiosa is wearing it, it's black. It's black. The tapers into red. The tapers into white at the very edges. Um, it's I love that detail a lot. And
It's
yeah,
a
and then
good
it's like, oh, this is the darkest of angels, like the fifth rider of the apocalypse. Yeah, she
Yep.
finds Dementus,
A legend.
takes his wheels, takes his water, takes his bullets. It's like makes him fucking hopeless.
yeah.
Um, as he like
Crawling,
slowly,
That's
basically.
that's such a
yeah,
great bit where he wakes up and it's like she's about to get him, but he's like slowly waking up. He goes for his water. He's like, "Where the fuck is the water?" And he goes out, and then he's like, "I know you're here." It's like I
Yeah,
don't
I knew
know.
you'd find
Oh,
me.
there's
Yeah.
so many little moments that are like so kind of beautiful like that are just so well constructed. I guess.
yeah. No, yeah, it's so good. And then we have the actor off. We have both of these guys as fucking like Oscar little clip moments
Yeah,
of them
yeah, yeah,
talking to each other. Where it's, Furiosa's basically like, "Hey, I want everything back. You took everything from me. I want it all back." And Dementis,
yeah,
is over there being obviously like trying to survive if he can, but he's like, "Listen, man, you're what does he say? It's like he says, my suffering could never fuck. It's like my suffering could never will never bring back their whatever he says. But he's basically like, yeah, man, revenge is dumb. He's like revenge is dumb to her face. Um, and it's so interesting. And it's really good. And I mean, and they're both talking up a storm. It's like the most line Furiosa has in the whole movie is
It's like
here.
more than the rest of the movie combined.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
And like Dementus, I think has one line where he's like, "It's like you're seeking a revenge. You think it's hope, but it's not. It's hate." He says that like he really sort of like hits home. It's like this is all hate. You're all built on hate. You're just like me, and that fucking like fucking gets it. It's so good.
yeah. And then that really incredible kind of like confrontation that they're talking, and it's shot so well. There's these like super low angle shots, like it's like the camera is at her fucking feet, like literally at her feet, looking up at her. And in IMAX, it looks like insane. uh,
Yeah.
and it's really cool. And we get like the same kind of like the shot on the road where it's Furiosa and Jack talking to each other with his like really wide angle lens. We get like that same shot with Dementis and Furiosa, and Furiosa. It's I don't know. She just wants. I don't know if she even knows what she wants in the moment, because she's trying to be like, "Hey, do you remember me? Do you remember my daughter? Not me, my mother." It's like, "Do you remember anything?" And he's like, "Not really." But then she takes the teddy bear, and like he's like, "Oh my gosh, you're little D. You're that girl that I fucking rescued. You're that girl that I stole so long ago." And he's like, yeah, it's like we are the same. It's like you are little Dementus. It's so interesting thematic moment.
Yeah. Oh
Well,
wow.
it's an interesting bit because it's like we have information, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Furiosa has information, but Dementus doesn't know. And it's when are we going to ever, or is he ever going to find out? When is that information going to be revealed? And it's the whole like we have withholding information until it's right, and it's that final like moment where he realizes it's very good, very good.
Yeah. And then uh the history man comes back in, and he's like, who knows what happened?
Yeah.
Who
Well,
Yeah,
knows
yeah,
how he
even
killed her?
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
even before then, there is this brief moment I thought they were gonna do a revenge, like a revenge tragedy, which is something that like I think because like there's like revenge films that I love, like the Lady Snowblood is one that does this really well, where it's like she's seeking revenge for her mother in the film, and she's almost been possessed. Like, and she becomes like what do they call it? An Asura demon that's sort of just born to kill and seek vengeance for her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time she tries to enact this kill on this person that wronged her mother, the death isn't at her hands kind of thing, or it's this really sad, like really painful death that sort of happens that doesn't feel rewarding or satisfying. There's one moment in the film where she's chasing someone down through the corridors of this house, and then she eventually finds the person she's been chasing down to kill, and she's already just hung herself and killed herself, and she's just filled with rage. And it happens towards the end of the film as well. But this one, when he has what I think is a heart attack, I thought they were
Or
about to
seizure.
fucking do that shit. Yeah, he has a seizure. And I thought they were gonna fucking do that shit where like he just dies not in through her hands. He dies just through natural causes, and you just don't get that satisfaction. There's like a really strong, really powerful like tragedy to that. But like they don't do that. But I almost felt that. Like I felt like, and I think that was intentional. You're meant to feel like, oh fuck, he's just gonna die. She's not gonna get her revenge the way she sees fit. I don't know. I before we get to that, I just found that to be a really powerful moment. Just like really hit me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Um yeah, and then the history man comes back, and he's like,
Yeah.
he says, well, it's interesting. The framing of it is so fairy tale, or
Mm-hmm.
fable is kind of like the term that comes to mind, where he's like, some people wish that she did more than shoot him. And then it's also incredible detail is like when she does shoot him, she shoots him through the teddy bear. She holds up the
Yeah.
teddy bear and shoots the teddy bear through. which is interesting. Yeah, he's like, some people wish that she did more than shoot him. Some people say that she actually tortured him, and then it's like showing him like chained to the car and driving the car. But then the way that he says like, but I know the truth. Furiosa herself came to me and whispered that on at the top of the citadel there was a special tree, and it's she planted, and it's basically like, yeah, she planted the peach the peach seed that her mom gave her in his fucking cock, and grew and like made him into a fucking yeah. It's so cool. It's very that is like very 3,000 Years of Longing. That section, this
I'm
ending is
surprised
more.
we have not mentioned that film yet.
Yes,
But yeah.
there's
This
more
podcast would
3,000
be
Years
an
of
extra
Longing.
hour longer if Doug talked about it.
The ending is more 3,000 Years of Longing than anything than Fury Road or any of the other Mad Max movies. It's so
Yeah.
very interesting that he's kind of bringing like a bit of that in here, like so overtly, I think, because the ending of 3,000 Years of Longing is similar to this. Is very cool.
That's that moment kind of. I liked it. Like I really liked it on the first watch, but that helped me. Like the whole ideas of we talked about it like earlier, but like kind of throughout of like the campfire like legend myth kind of retelling and passing down kind of stories and stuff. That everything kind of became clear in that ending, and the way that the History Man kind of wraps it up.
Yeah.
And like
I
that,
know,
it all
I know
kind
what
of,
actually happened. Yeah, like
yeah,
that.
it was that whole fairy tale kind of, and the chapters and everything kind of makes sense at when he like that ending kind of, I don't know, it really tonally and kind of just mythically, like the way that like the language of the narrative really comes into itself, and I totally understand kind of the nature of it, because that's not Fury Road. That's not how Fury Road is, like at all.
No.
And I can definitely like I think I think Kevin brought it up earlier about like expectation and like reality and like what this actually is, because it's very different from Fury Road. And I think on the surface, like it seems like a very similar film, and there are a lot of similarities, but the more and the more I sit on it, the more like different they are. And I think
I said it, very different movies.
I said it earlier, but they are like really great companion pieces, and they exist in a way like that they exist together. They don't they're the Fury, like they before the Fury Road existed like kind of on its own. Obviously, like there's other films, but now like they're inseparable. Like, are you okay?
Yeah,
they're inseparable films right now, like forever.
I think that you know what? I think there's some people that would get like so annoyed by me saying this, but I kind of view these movies, Furiosa and Fury Road, like The Godfather 1 and 2, where I think The Godfather 1 and 2 are also kind of inseparable.
Inseparable, yeah.
Yeah, like it's like the full, like the total piece is those two movies together, and then 3 is like a sequel to those two movies. But that's kind of how I
well, no, it feels it's so narratively intertwined in a way that they're different, like structurally and almost thematically in ways, but they build off of each other in such a like great way. Like even like the little like what's the doctor's guy's name? We were talking about him earlier.
I almost said something so wrong. It's the
the organic mechanic.
The organic mechanic. Even little things like his journey from going to Dementis to Immortan Joe, and then when you see him in Furiosa, he's with Immortan Joe, and then he's helping with Immortan Joe's babies, and like where different characters wind up, and like the world becomes in the kind of the myth of Mad Max really grows with this film so much that I don't know, it's fascinating, because it almost feels like a lot of it feels like obviously I'm sure George Miller had a lot of this stuff, like when he was writing Fury Road, he had like, okay, this is where this guy came from, or like he had like ideas of like that stuff.
There's for sure a big old Bible.
Exactly.
Somewhere.
There was a Bible that we did not have access to, and now it feels like we're getting let in a little bit into this Bible, and a lot of it's starting to be not only make more sense but become really more fascinating. Like I think it's a lot more interesting to go back and see Fury Road, but also this movie, it stands on its own like credibly. I think that's the
Yeah.
big one of the big takeaways. Because I keep going back to how it's enhancing this world and this myth, but it stands on its own. It's like an incredible film.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
want to I'd love to. The thing is like after I watched Furiosa on Thursday and then watched Fury Road yesterday, my immediate thought after watching Fury Road was like, I want to go back and see Furiosa again. And now I feel like
Yeah.
for the rest of my life, I can't do
Yeah.
anything
Yeah,
other
you
than
have to
watch
watch
these
them.
two things
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
And that's just going to be the reality for like the rest of time is like if I want to watch one of them, it's going to be a nice
You have to
little like
watch.
5 hour sit down where I watch both of them
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
It's a
And they
little
just exist
longer
like
than the
that.
Babe marathon. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Little bit, yeah.
The Babe movies aren't
Um,
that long. Okay.
I
No.
I love the. I mean, we could talk about thesis statements that the film makes, and I think you mentioned one in one of your reviews, one of your many reviews, Doug. You mentioned a thesis statement of it, but I think the thesis statement that I love about this pair of films is I think something that's said in Fury Road. But I can't remember which. It was the one who was pregnant. I can't remember what her character name was
Oh,
in
But the
Fury
one
right.
that
Road.
played Rosie Huntington.
Rosa, yeah,
Rosie Huntington
Huntington,
Whiteley,
White,
yeah.
Whitley, whatever.
She's
Yeah.
there's an interaction in that movie between her and Nux, where he's talking about Morton Joe and like I'm gonna die historic, I'm gonna die for this, and yeah, this sort of thing. But she sort of says a line. She says, "Who killed the world?" Is sort of like I think the thesis
Yeah.
line of this because this film like really hits home on that, especially with that sequence of like the 40 day long war of the wasteland and how all these powerful men who just have jurisdiction over this stretch of the Fury Road and that sort of battle for power and how like the demise of Dementus sort of solidifies that. She takes the seed given by her mother. And I'm gonna give my partner credit for this. She really pointed this out, really hit home for me. So shout out to Jen. She's right there. Oh, hello. Anyway,
Oh, she can join the podcast. She could get her a mic.
yeah, say hello.
Yeah, give her a mic.
I don't know if you heard her. Anyway, she pointed out this thing of like the seed given by her mother is the thing that kills Dementor. So he doesn't even die from it. But she plants it in his fucking cock and balls. Plants the seed that's usually given by the fucking man that these fucking oppressive men. She fucking puts that shit back in there and lets life sprout from it and hope sprout from this fucking vile, disgusting world that is sort of created by these power hungry men. I think that's like the most poignant finale to this, and like if that's the fucking whisper that History Man heard from Furiosa, then I think that's like that's the most important message to take away from this. That's like an important image that I think needs to be sort of like highlighted and discussed. That fucking tree coming out of his dick is so powerful. I fucking love it, dude.
Yeah.
I love the idea that I like. Well, sorry, I like the idea that the movie is the history man telling the story, right? But it's like him telling the story after the events of Fury Road, when Furiosa has like liberated the Citadel. So it's him telling like people at the Citadel about like, oh, this is like, you know what I mean? Like this is like this the great leader Furiosa. Like, where did she come from? What does she do? Yeah,
that's why the Max cameo is in there because they gotta represent. Yeah, he was here too, just chilling.
Yeah. I do remember at the end of Fury Road, there's a quote that happens at the end of the movie. It's just a quote that comes up on screen. I can't remember what it says exactly, but there's a quote that comes up on screen, and then the quote is from the first History Man. So there is this sort of like lineage of like these storytellers, and then the importance of storytelling and passing on stories in this wasted land to me is like such a poignant point. Especially, when it comes to Australian cinema, the idea of Australian cinema, especially Indigenous storytelling and all this stuff like that. Like, I think it's awesome that George Miller holds such a high regard for that mode of mythic storytelling, and that's so fucking poignant in this movie. Anyway, that's it.
I was just thinking of like I mean, not even just Furiosa, but the Mad Max universe and like the musical instruments that are used in the films, like especially like in the Fury Road, you have like obviously like the big stuff. But I was just thinking of George Miller talking about like films being kind of visual songs and visual music, and like the
Yeah,
way
he
that
talks
like
about it. Yeah.
music is like kind of a thing that's like passed down, and like that's like something like the songs and stuff like that, and that's kind of a rhythms, and there's some level of music and visual language in the way that he's operating, in a sense that like it's it passes even that like sort of like storytelling way where it's like it's it breaks barriers of like there's no language barrier there, like the kind of stories he's telling, and the kind of visual language and the visual music, in a sense, these are stories that anyone can kind of tell and relate to, and keep kind of living, I guess, in that sense. They're that can be passed down in that way, I guess. But I don't know, I think that was an interesting thing, because there's some connection of like visual music and the way that he's operating in like these visuals, but the way that the dialogue is not there to kind of operate in a more traditional sense, but in a way that the image can be passed down in a way that the word cannot be at
Right.
the same time, as get lost in language, I guess.
Yeah. My checklist for the episode was very general, and I imagine we touched on every single one of these things in some detail. So, do we have closing thoughts? Is there anything you guys want to mention that somehow we didn't talk about, or just what you think about the movie as a whole?
Do you have anything left on that list, Doug?
Oh, I skipped over a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I imagine
I
you
was like,
did. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, I skipped over a hell of
Is there anything
stuff.
you want to run through? Fucking throw it.
Yeah.
You could just like
But
rattle them off in bullet point fashion if you want to,
well, I
without
was
any
just,
explanation if you want, just for like fun.
I mean,
4-hour episode
so
of
much.
looks like a movie.
Yeah, just like
Um,
just say things, but don't expand on them. Just present them as bullet points as you have
Oh
them
Yeah.
wait,
written
this is a good
down.
point. This is a good point. This is a good point. I wrote this in my notes. When Furiosa is sniping at Bullet Farm, I wish they did the shot where her one eye is huge through the lens. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yes,
I think it's like a shot
yeah.
in The Killer, maybe. Or like, cause like it's like, and there's what it would have been a perfect time to do that
yeah.
shot in Bullet Farm, because you see like right through it. But they did not. That's my one criticism. That's why it's a 9.9 out of 10.
Is it though?
99
A
out
big
of
eye.
100.
Yeah. No, it's this is,
It's
yeah,
yeah, it's 100 on Doug's scale.
yeah, it's good. I like this movie's
100
good.
Dougs out of Dougs.
Yeah, 100 Dougs out of 100 Dougs.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I guess we can call it there then, if everybody has said their
Yeah, I
piece
feel like
about
you set our
Furiosa.
paces. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So we were gonna do news. The episode is almost 3 hours long, so I suggest we don't do news. Unless you guys are very excited to talk about it. In
Yeah,
which
so I have
case,
a piece of news that
okay.
I think is important to bring
Yeah.
up.
Here we go. Here we go.
This is on this Memorial Day weekend is on track to be. It is projected to be the lowest grossing Memorial Day weekend at the box office in 41 years.
Wow.
Boo.
Can
Boo.
do we have a list of movies that came
So,
out on Memorial Day weekend?
are we blaming who? Garfield or Mad Max? Like, I don't know.
We're blaming the fucking general public.
I'm gonna find. Oh, let's see. Holiday opening weekends, Memorial weekend. Okay, so uh, Top Gun Maverick came
Yeah,
out on Memorial Day weekend
Damn.
yeah.
previously.
No, Memorial Day
Uh,
weekends are usually a really fucking strong box office weekend.
yeah. Okay, so this is I'm looking I'm this is not like a year by year thing. This is highest grossing, but previous movies to come out on Memorial Day weekends include Top Gun Maverick, Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, X-Men The Last Stand, The Little Mermaid, Fast and Furious 6, Aladdin, X-Men Days of Future Past, The Hangover Part 2, and then the top 10, number 10 is Solo, a Star Wars story. So
Do
those
the
are.
kids not yearn for Mad Max? Is there
That's
like
the
a
thing.
is
It's, I
there a
mean, almost all
generational
there's not a
difference
single
here?
thing here that is not a franchise or IP. I imagine
Yeah.
probably until we get to like the fit. Oh, actually, number 16 is Pearl Harbor.
Michael
That's
Bay.
that's funny.
I guess that's
No,
I guess that's
It's
Memorial
fair.
Day
IP
weekend
kind of.
is a really strong
Yeah, it
weekend
is. It is.
for
It is.
box office usually. It's very it's so it's like it is
Yeah.
Mad Max is tracking. I mean, Furiosa is tracking right now for like a really like unusually soft like opening like 4 day weekend. It's I think it's tracking to be like $31.5 million 4 day weekend, which is I mean the budget with the movie was 160. That's not including marketing. It's like this movie probably needs to make $200 million to go in the green.
And why? Like, I mean, we did talk earlier about like it's not like a recurring cast or anything, but I don't think like a fan of Fury Road would be dismissive enough to not see the movie because of that.
Yeah,
And I like Fury Road is like talked about how really highly. Like, I know it didn't make like crazy money, but like
it
I
was
think it's
nominated
like
for 10 Oscars. You know, like
exactly like it's like it's kind of thought about as like a highly appreciated film. It's interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
What were the previous films you said? Like you had Top Gun, and then there was another like patriotic ass film that you said there as
Pearl
well.
Harbor.
But
Yeah,
I'm
Pearl
like,
Harbor is one of
no
them.
Harbor. Maybe people just don't give a fuck about Australia, and they just want to see
Yeah.
their fucking patriotic
To be fair,
American. film.
I believe the list I was looking at was sorted by U.S. domestic box office, so
Okay.
that might apply as to
Yeah,
why
and
Pearl Harbor is very high on the list.
I'm sure there's plenty of kids that have no idea that Mad Max is Australian. I'll
well,
probably
yeah,
bet
Yeah.
but
you.
also like the thing that's so bizarre about this too is that um I mean, this is opening lower than Fury Road. It's on track to open less than Fury Road, which is and Fury Road already like didn't make a ton of money, but Fury Road, I mean, it had such a long life in the culture after
Yeah.
it came out. Something like the sequel or the prequel, whatever, like the follow up to Fury Road, same universe movie, should it's just all
Right,
signs
because
points about
it's
making more money than the previous one. It doesn't make any sense.
yeah, that is strange because so much of
Yeah,
the
I
love for the
don't.
movie
I
has come in
couldn't.
the years that have passed.
Do you
It's weird
think
that
the CGI in the trailer made people like this? Like, I don't want to see it.
I
Is
I
it
think
I
I
have
think it
not seen. Oh yeah, go Kevin.
no, I was gonna like well, I think what happens is like a lot of like people like hear a certain thing, you know what I mean? It's like people see that, and then the people who are like, this looks bad because of the CGI, then like the average person hears that and they're like, oh, that looks bad because this guy said it looks bad. And like that has like a real like lasting like it builds on itself. And then it causes a lot of people to be like, oh, well, if a bunch of people say the trailer looks worse than the last one,
Yeah,
then it probably
there
is worse
was.
than the
I
last
was
one.
in the
Is
bathroom and there was guys talking about how like the green screen looked really fake, and they were talking about how bad the CGI was and shit.
Yeah.
Is like,
there's I so every time I see the trailers play on my oh can you guys see me? Oh no, it's like frozen.
Oh,
Hello? Oh shit. It's like frozen.
We're losing you.
we lost you.
Oh hello, we're back. Um
I
so
think
every
you're
single
back.
time I see the,
Okay.
the trailer
Back, he's
play on TikTok, um like I'll go to the comments and it's all just people being like, this looks dog shit, this looks shit, this looks shit. Like I just see it
Yeah.
constantly. And I'm like, is this a case of like people don't like the look of it? Or is this some kind of like anti woke mob being like, oh, they fucking done like
Yeah.
a woman Mad Max thing? And there's like
I
mixes
was
of
gonna
that in
say
there.
there's
Yeah, I
not a
think there's
there's not a
tons.
I mean it's this isn't
Yeah, right.
like a super big insight, but like there I mean there's
oh
without a doubt
yeah,
in my mind a percentage of people who are like, I
There's a
don't want to
camp there.
see this
Yeah.
woman
yeah. We didn't even.
lead an
I
action
mean, we didn't
movie. I
really
mean
even
that's just
touch
like
on
without a
that.
doubt a thing that exists.
But I that was one thing. Like for me, it's like I appreciate this from like not being Fury Road. Like I think there's just not enough women-led action
Right.
movies. Like I was just
Well,
thinking while watching the movie, I was like, it's more of a horror thing, right? Like you have like
Mhm.
the final girl in horror, like the final girl in horror is a thing, but like the action girl or something, like some
Right.
like
Well,
there's
it's
not like an
of gender roles. It's because
no, I
women get
exactly she can't
abused
do
and
that. Like it's like,
yeah.
but I don't know. I really that was something that I was
But
like, this is really cool. At this kind of I liked it a
it,
lot.
it's also worth not just talking about that, but also the fact that like I imagine for a lot of people, it's not just a woman leading an action movie, but it's Anya Taylor-Joy leading an action movie who like when Furiosa was Charlize Theron, who has been in like Fast and Furious, has led her own action movies. It's like that's an action star who is a woman, whereas like a lot of
Yeah.
people probably see Anya Taylor-Joy and they're like, I don't want to watch an action movie. Like I can't believe her as an action star, so like they won't watch it. You know, like there's no doubt that something like that happens. I mean, like people definitely have those conversations.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
It's
I
just
just have a
unfortunate
hard
that this
I
is
just have a hard time believing that, and I'm sure it probably is true, but I'm just have a hard time believing that there's that many people who believe all
yeah,
of these
right.
things and don't go to see this. It's a
yeah,
shame.
no, but it's hard to believe it. But then when you witness it in real life, you're just
No, I
like,
know,
oh
I
well,
know,
I
I know. I
see
that
just
happens. That happens to
comments
me with a
everywhere
lot of
about it. It's
things.
fine.
Yeah, that
yeah,
happens
no,
to me
I
with a
know.
lot of things where I'm like, these people aren't real, and then I see those real people, and I'm like, oh fuck, they really. Like it's like a nice
Yeah, I know.
reminder where you're
Well,
like,
it's like
no, people are like
we're gonna
different.
sit here and we're gonna talk about for the next couple weeks about how poorly Furiosa's doing, and then Deadpool is gonna make $1 billion. It's just
Yeah.
like
No, I
it's
mean, yeah, exactly. Like people.
it's
I
like
mean,
I'm not
people.
seeing that movie.
I
what are
like.
we doing?
Yeah, it's like you make fun of these people who eat up Deadpool and Wolverine, and then you go to the movies and they play the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer before Furiosa, and I got a theater full of people clapping who are watching Furiosa, like actively.
Yeah.
Like I'm like they're here to
Yeah.
watch Furiosa,
We're
and then they
oh
see the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, and they're going fucking nuts. They're going more nuts than they did at the end of Furiosa. So
were
I'm like,
No.
you
were
know,
your
it's
Like
screenings
actually,
packed?
yeah.
Were your screenings packed?
it was pretty. Mine was pretty busy.
Mine were like empty.
No,
I saw
mine.
Yeah,
it
mine was
4
too.
times in a
I think I
row
just go to.
in
I think I just go to a
IMAX.
popular theater because my theater's in a mall, so it's like a very centrally located theater where like a
Yeah.
lot of people go.
So I'm in a very rural area as well, and like so the cinema that I went to is the only cinema within like 2 hours basically.
Oh,
So
damn.
and there was no one there. Like so to put it to
Yeah.
reference, this is the only
Yeah,
cinema
that's
people can go to.
crazy.
No one was there.
Yeah,
It
no,
was like
my
I
my
was
theater,
at
maybe 5 people.
the first showing on Thursday. There was like 10 people, 15
Oh, that's
people in
crazy.
mine.
No, I mean mine
And
was
then I
like
went to like the 10 a.m. this morning, and there was like 10 people there.
mine
But
wasn't
like in like
packed
the
the way that
big
most
screening
blockbusters
room,
are,
like
but
the
yeah, mine wasn't
Anyway,
packed
um,
like some of the
I,
previous movies, but it was. I mean, I had a good amount of people there.
I think it's such a shame because like I would love to see George Miller do another Mad Max movie, but as you said, Doug, it's like it's not looking likely because like, and I don't know if you guys can verify this for me, but like I think there's only 2 directors I can think of that still have directorial and visionary ownership over a franchise, and that is George Miller, Mad Max,
James Cameron.
and James Cameron Avatar. I can't
Yeah.
think of any other franchise, big blockbuster franchise, that is still in the hands of its original creator and directorial visionary. I can't think of any others. Like it's just those 2 to me. And the fact we might lose Mad Max.
I was gonna bring up that the Matrix movies were, but now we're getting
Not really.
they're talking.
Yeah,
Well,
there's like.
but I know there was issues, but like at the end of the day, Wachowski directed all of those movies, right? Like there, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
but
perfect.
we're gonna get
right?
another one.
But
and
that's the
it's gonna
thing. It's
ruin
that's the
that.
thing. It's now we are not that the next Matrix is not going to be a Wachowski directed film. But
Well,
And the next Mad Max is probably not going to be George Miller because it's going to
It's
come
gonna
out in 20 years when
be-
he's gone.
Well,
it's
no.
gonna
So
be
okay, wait,
some
wait, wait,
random
but maybe they can justify Mad Max Wasteland or whatever it will be called. What the Mad Max prequel, the
Wasteland,
Fury Road
yeah,
prequel,
yeah.
the other Fury Road prequel from the perspective of Max. Maybe they could justify that because they're bringing back Tom Hardy, a more proven, that's Mr. Venom, a more proven movie star, right?
is Venom 3 coming out?
Yeah, Venom 3 is coming out this year.
Yeah.
If Venom
that's
3
gonna be the last one.
if Venom 3 does really good at the
send-off.
box office, does that ticket us to Wasteland?
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
maybe.
saying.
Does
Maybe.
Venom 3 save
But also
George
like.
Miller?
I don't know.
I
It's
don't
kind.
know.
I don't know.
I tried to look at a list on
Does George
Letterboxd.
Miller have to make Happy Feet 3 to get Wasteland made?
I think
I
I
say
think
what
Dune kind of
happens
falls into the
here.
same category.
This is dream scenario for me. If we don't get a big blockbuster Mad Max, fucking George Miller works with Village Roadshow and Screen Australia and does a fucking 100 grand low budget Mad Max fucking in Broken Hill with no CG. Just does that. It just goes fuck
Yeah.
it. Like, just make a low
Or, I
budget
mean-
one like the first one again. Just do it. Like, fuck it.
We talked about it earlier. Would it be possible if he's like, hey, we can't get the budget for this big one with Tom Hardy? Does he do like a little animated, little
Oh, he'd probably go
Max-
animated. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
little animated Max movie? It would be like his deal with the studio would be like, hey, the last one didn't do too hot. Give me a little less money, and we'll do an animated version.
Because he
I
was
would
he
like
was going to
that.
do that for Fury
Yeah.
Road. Yeah, he was going
Yeah.
to do that. At
It's
some
like
point.
because it's like I want to tell this story. I can't get the budget to do it how I want to do it this way. I'm cool with doing it animated.
I'm 79 years old. I'm getting
Yeah.
old.
I don't
Let's
want to
just do
go
it.
out in the desert anymore. It's like
Yeah.
Okay, fuck it. Let's rattle through the news really quick. Let's go yay or nays.
Let's go.
Cut it up.
Only because
Get the
I was
editor.
I was looking at the one piece of news and and it's not really a piece of news, but it kind of has to do with what we're talking about with Anya Taylor-Joy. So I was like, might as well talk about it.
if they made it this far in the episode, they're here. For
Before we get to the thing I'm talking about, I guess like the biggest piece of news is from this morning, the winners at Cannes, which like obviously biggest prize Palme d'Or goes to Sean Baker's Honora. Are we excited? I think everybody's excited.
Obviously,
for it, right?
I love Sean Baker. I don't know. Have
Yeah.
you seen Jim or Owen? Are you guys super familiar with Sean Baker's work? Or
I don't think so. No.
I have
recommend.
not seen anything yet. But
Yeah,
he seems like I listened to or like I read some of his speech, and he seems like a good guy.
Oh, the speech was awesome. I mean, the speech was like
Yeah.
really good. And he's just like, nobody's really doing it like him, like American filmmakers. Nobody really
Yeah.
like tells
Nobody-
these kinds of stories the way he
Yeah.
does, or like, and if they attempted to do it, they would not do it as effectively or with as much talent. Like it's just like nobody else can do the things he's doing, even though they're on like the smallest scale.
he captures the feeling of living in America in a way that like
Yeah.
nobody else.
I mean,
has.
when I was watching
In modern,
Tangerine,
at least.
yeah, like when I was watching Tangerine today, I was like, I mean, this is like, how many movies capture LA like this? Like, it's like the list is probably 5 movies long. Like, it's like nobody really does this. So yeah, I'm very excited. I mean, Honora is the most excited I've been for one of his movies now after seeing the others. Anyway, the thing that I was hinting at with the Anya Taylor-Joy thing is the Hollywood Reporter putting out a list of the 10 young A-list stars at the top of studios' most wanted lists, which includes these 10 actors: Austin Butler, Timothée Chalamet, Jacob Elordi, Paul Mescal, Jenna Ortega, Glenn Powell, Florence Pugh, Sydney Sweeney, Zendaya, and Anya Taylor-Joy. Those are the 10 that apparently are at the top of the studio's lists, which is like, I kind of tweeted about this, but I was like, these are the 10 most expected people. Like if we were going to rank the 10 most popular stars in Hollywood under 35 right now, it's like these 10 people, and it's not even, like,
is Glenn Powell under 35?
Okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Young star.
No, but I mean, like,
yeah, I think he's like 30. I
on
think
that
he's like
list, though?
38. No, Adam Driver's not. This is
Glenn Powell
like,
is 35.
I think Adam Driver is. Yeah, it's also like, I don't think this is going by age as much as it is like how established they are.
Okay. Yeah.
Whereas like Adam Driver is kind of like, Adam Driver. And I think this is like, it's also like young faces, like Adam Driver's familiar.
Yeah,
in the way that,
you
like,
look old as shit. You can't be on this list. Sorry.
But yeah, like in that sense, these are like the 10 people you would expect to see the most, and Anya Taylor-Joy is one of them. So you would think that would hold some weight, but also like you look at these lists and you're like, these people are. I mean, Jacob Elordi had that movie that went straight to fucking VOD that nobody watched. Like Paul Mescal hasn't really been in a successful movie.
Paul Mescal
yet.
is just
Gladiator
normal people. Again,
2,
it's just
Yeah, I
normal
mean,
people
no,
for
I mean,
the most
Gladiator
part,
2
yeah.
will obviously make money, so it's like I get why he's on those lists.
Yeah,
He'll
but
do
it's
that
like
to get a
it's
shot, yeah.
it's interesting how much of this list is like what they consider the 10 young A-list stars,
It's
and
just like
like
Twitter made the
none
list,
of
kinda.
and like none of them are really like indicative of like
Well, I
box
think
office success,
for
like
me,
for the
it's like, I think
studios.
Jenna's the most interesting. It's
Yeah.
like, what is
Well, like studios know
Wednesday?
that she's a draw. Like she's
Yeah, well,
probably a
Wednesday,
bigger draw
bro.
than most of these other people because like among young
But I mean,
audiences, like they want to
yeah,
see her.
it's interesting. She
Yeah.
like
Yeah, if you want to talk about like TV shows and like getting big from TV shows, which a lot of
Yeah.
people, these people are. I mean, you could even throw, you could, well, you could consider Anna Taylor-Joy in that too. Whether or not you want to argue like
Yeah.
her start begins either with the Witch, or you could say it starts with the chess show. What the fuck?
Queen's Gambit. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Queen's Gambit. But it's like a lot of these guys, like their most popular thing that helped them out was TV shows, and Wednesday
Yeah.
is the biggest TV show in the world somehow.
I think no. The only thing I'm saying is like this is a list. This is like a most wanted list from the perspective of the studios.
Yeah,
that makes
And
sense.
the only name on this
makes
list, I think, that is like actually capable of like they release a movie and it's like putting people in the movie theater is Timothée Chalamet. Like
Yeah.
I don't think anybody else here, like their name is like in line with like success, like studios can't fail with it. Like they could fail with all these other people.
Yeah.
Well,
no.
even you mean we talk about Paul Mescal with the Faux movie. I mean that.
Yeah, that movie. I mean, they also barely put that, but like,
No,
I guess
I know,
Glenn
but I
Powell's
mean,
kind of like reaching
I
that
think
status.
I think
with anyone big.
Zendaya. I think at the point where after Challengers, I think
Challengers lost money.
Challengers wasn't. Yeah,
Challengers
lost
lost
a lot of
money.
money.
That's true. That's true. Well, I was
Like,
just
it's
thinking.
like-
I think that like she's at a point where like if she's in a movie that people will talk about it, like that's like. But I guess not
Yeah.
make money is the point.
Like it's the
Yeah.
same thing. You know,
I
like
think
you look
she's
at like a
just, like-
name like Florence Pugh. Like it's like that's like
that's
like
not
Florence
a-
Pugh will win Oscars. She is like one of the most talented
Well, that's
young
why it's a
actresses in
weird.
Hollywood.
It's a weird
like
thing because it's like
she is
most
like
wanted
coveted.
to
Yeah,
play.
like she's like coveted in these circles. But like, there's no regular person who's like, I'm going to watch this movie specifically because Florence Pugh is in it. Like when they put out that movie A Good Person, like who the fuck was watching that? Because nobody gives a shit. Like nobody cares.
Zach Braff. No,
about
people
these
are watching that for
people,
Zach
really.
Braff and Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, they watched it for Morgan Freeman.
I mean, that's probably like there's probably more people who went to see that
Chicken
because
Little
of
and
Morgan
Morgan
Freeman.
Freeman,
Old ass
dude.
people were like, of
Oh,
course
man.
I'll go watch Morgan. Like these, I don't know. Anyway,
Morgan.
another piece of non-news. Do we have any names we want to throw out for Knives Out 3 fan castings? Now that we have a title for the movie, the title for the movie is "Wake Up Dead Man." By the way, if
A
that helps
YouTube
with your
reference.
casting.
So, Knives
Hugh
Out.
Grant.
A
you want
reference.
to cast a YouTuber?
No,
No,
you
what?
too.
Oh, a
you
YouTube reference.
Like Bono, YouTube, the
I
Irish
get
man.
Mr. Beast in his movie, bro.
I wouldn't leave it out. I mean,
Anyways, fan casting.
Wait,
Monica
Mr. Beast
Bellucci.
Knives Out movie would be fucking sick, eh?
Monica Bellucci.
People
Mr.
would go
Beast.
watch that. By the way, that would make more money than most movie stars.
Do it.
Actually,
it.
honestly,
It's gonna
be straight to
honestly,
Netflix.
not
How many-
joking. Put fuck it. Put Mr. Beast and Kai Cenat in the next fucking Knives Out movie.
But it's going straight to Netflix.
I don't know who that
It's
other
not-
guy
it's
is,
not-
but yeah,
it's
yeah.
not in theaters.
it's going. Fuck this.
Yeah,
dude.
the movie's not playing in theaters. I don't think. It
I-
says set
I
for
didn't
release
like
in
it.
2025
Oh,
on Netflix.
I'll do it.
I really am waiting for the next Kenneth Branagh mystery movie. I don't know.
No, fuck
Oh,
off,
come
bro.
on.
Those
Those
you're
aren't
not
even-
You're
bro.
gonna sit up here and say those Kenneth Branagh
At
movies
least,
are better.
at
than
least the
Knives Out
first
movies.
night. Yeah, at least the first Knives Out is good.
Hey,
Okay, whatever. Anyway, so no names. There is Paul Mescal news, who we already talked about as well. One of which
when
is
are we
that-
getting that? The No Church in the Wild Gladiator 2 trailer. When are we getting
probably
that
when
news?
Gladiator 2 is coming out.
No, but
I'd
like,
imagine.
geez, man,
You know, it takes these things take a while.
it's
Like we're, we got
Oh,
time has to
man.
pass. We have to get closer to Gladiator.
time
2.
has passed. Enough
Um,
time has passed, Kevin.
the
Probably like
news-
next month, to be
The
honest.
news is that Richard Linklater has completed filming some of the sequences of his multi-decade
That word.
feature adaptation of Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along, and said that Paul Mescal is, quote, transcendent in the lead role. And then the other piece of news that goes along with this is that Paul Mescal is being eyed to play one of the Beatles in Sam Mendes's upcoming Beatles biopic.
Which Beetle?
Ringo!
I saw a tweet that said he should play
What?
all of them with different hair.
Ringo, when I saw him,
Yes.
I think
Ringo
it's
was
so
the one that
funny to be like, hey, this big name could play a Beatle, and it's like, what? Like, I don't know which one. Like,
it's gonna be Ringo or Paul. I would bet money it's either Ringo or Paul.
I mean, it makes sense that it would be Paul because like he's such a big name, but it's like,
no, you
That's
need a
also
big
his
name to
name,
play
right?
Ringo. These are gonna be 4 different movies. You need a big name to play Ringo. Like,
yeah,
it's the
It's just
Beatles.
like-
Also, we're talking about the Beatles. You need a big name to play all of them. They're the fucking Beatles.
How much did
I don't know. I
yeah.
mean,
No,
do you?
it's
But it's like
it'd
the
be
Michael
Ringo.
Jordan thing.
Yeah, it is like the Michael Jordan
right.
thing, but
But
it's
it's like, do you just get a good actor who's not really recognizable in like prosthetics, and it's like that is Paul McCartney, rather than like that is Paul Mescal playing Ringo Starr.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what is?
I think
It
you don't
depends
do.
on
Honestly, I think
no
that
prosthetics. It's
you
just
don't
straight
do
up Paul
prosthetics. Like you don't try and
in
make
his
him look
short
like them.
shorts, and he's
Yeah, I think like you dress them up like that, but you don't try and make them look like them with prosthetics or makeup or anything. But maybe I don't think they're gonna do that though.
No, they're gonna give him like a weird nose and like.
Hollywood and their weird noses.
Yo, whoa, Hollywood and their what?
There's nose things in Hollywood with Maestro and people doing nose things in Hollywood and Chris
Like the
Hemsworth
people that make
Furiosa.
Maestro and their nose. Whoa,
Bro, can you shut the fuck up? You know what I meant. Jesus Christ, pissing me off. Attorneys for Donald Trump have sent a cease and desist letter in order to block the U.S. sale and release of The Apprentice.
Oh, brother.
Well, I'm gonna watch it then.
Yeah. No, that's like fun because I thought you were gonna keep
I'll let
going.
you guys
That's
know.
why I paused.
No. That's it. That's the
Because
the
the reason why they're doing it is because like in the movie apparently he like is trying to like he's like abusing drugs and like trying to use like weird weight loss drugs and shit. The movie's gonna be so mid. There's 0% chance the movie's very good. Best case scenario is that it's like okay, like a 6 out of 10 movie. But it's I don't know, it's exciting I guess that.
And this piece of news is more exciting than the idea of the movie existing in the first place. I mean, this is like the most exciting thing we've heard about it.
It's like the fucking Interview, the Seth Rogen movie, where it was like this super controversial, like fucking North Korea is gonna bomb the fucking US because of this and this, and then the movie was just kind of like not very funny. And then,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the
last piece of news, as usual, is just something I put in here. Did you get Tom Hanks asking his son, asking Chet Hanks to explain the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef?
That shit was funny. That shit was funny.
I like how at the beginning of it,
what the fuck did he call him?
Yeah, he called him like Big Major or something.
No, he said Big. He said Big Maine.
Oh, Big Maine. Yeah. hey, Big Maine, what's the deal with all this?
He said, Big Maine, can you explain the Drake/Kendrick Lamar feud to me? And then he types like a paragraph, like an essay. And then Tom Hanks says, holy cow, these are fighting words. He said, people taking sides, who's winning? And Chet said, did you not just read what I said?
That's so funny.
Oh, it's really good. That's really good. That's the last piece of news. Nalbis, thank you so much for spending 3.5 hours with us recording this.
I love it.
I want to remind everybody listening to follow Nalbis on all of the platforms.
I need 1 million followers on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I gotta get into that Letterboxd goal.
Yeah, definitely the Letterboxd, definitely everything else. All those links will be in the episode description. And next week we will be talking about Evil Does Not Exist. So we will see you for episode 69. Bye.